Hey, be careful with the role-playing hashtag on Twitter. I was gonna use it, but then I looked at it and I was like, ooh. Haha. Hey, Draco Kraken. What is up? My thing is my thing is why is everything weird? Hey Sly. How's it going? So yeah, very very interesting that little jaunt that I had on Twitter for a moment because I was scrolling down and I was like, when am I gonna see a TTRPG related uh post? And it took a while, and I was afraid, I was scared and afraid and alone in Twitter, even on Twitter. Crazy that. Um, so that yeah, that was a thing. Anywho, um, just me at the moment. So you know what? I'll just do a big old hey, that's me right there. Because the call will end itself in a moment. And unless Aiden joins soon or Boo does, because both of them are supposed to be here. At least relatively soon. So that's just that's just the way it be sometimes. So we're doing vampire today. Talking about vampire, as you can see, I've pulled out the purple logo, or the logo on purple with the little vampire thing in the background, which but I kind of wish I could do manipulations and stuff better. Whoa! Did you hear that dice roll sound? That is the new tip. Hey, Steely, here in spirit, flip on, my friends. Catch you on the VOD side. Well, thank you, Steely. I appreciate that $2 going towards the dice fund. Thank you. They called me into work tonight, so I guess I'll just stick around until I have to go. Well, welcome, Lux. I'm sorry that you'll have to go at some point, but we'll enjoy your stay while you are here. Anyway, so as I was saying, we're gonna be talking some vampire today. Vampire, one of my favorite TTRPGs of recent discovery, memory, and playing. Very much enjoy it, and so Aiden actually brought up, "Hey, we should talk vampire," and I was like, "Okay." So I found a thing, and it's 10 vampire 10 tips on how to roleplay vampires better in Vampire the Masquerade, specifically. And I was like, okay. As a still relatively new storyteller in Vampire, never a player, yet. One day maybe, perhaps. Hey, there it goes. Let me just do a thing. Whoa, whoa, whoa. There we go. Let me know when you lads arrive. Uh, uh. Don't look at my secret messages. Oh my god. Anyway, so, they have spoilers. But I might as well talk about that in a few minutes here. But we're gonna give them a few minutes to join up, get situated if they are able to. I'll keep my eye on my Discord until then. But yes, so Aiden suggested vampire, so we are going to talk vampire. The other thing that I wanted to say was this Friday I am going to be doing a painting stream on the channel. So get prepped for that if you want to hang out. Aiden and Boo are of course welcome, as I've told them, but they are not, of course, required to be there. I've told them that. So, probably gonna take another 5 hours on a Necron. So, we'll see how that goes. But I suppose it's been a few minutes, so I'll get the thing started, and we will hop into the topic. So, this is, as I said before, 10 tips on how to roleplay vampires better in Vampire the Masquerade. This is brought to us by Outstar on YouTube. So, we will see what they have to say. Let me bring it up here. Moment. Hold. And here we go. The amount of models I've finished while you work on one Necron. Hey. I suck. So this time I know what I did wrong with my palette, so hopefully it's not as bad. Well, anyway, so I haven't even painted since last painting stream, so this is going to be interesting. I also have some Space Marines that I could probably do. But yeah, so we'll see how that goes. Anyway, let us begin these 10 tips, eh?
Hello everyone, this is Outstar and welcome to the new Vampire the Masquerade related video. Today we're going to talk about one of my favorite topics, role-playing. It's a really good time to either go back to role-playing Vampire or start doing it, because this month has been super cool for Vampire the Masquerade fans. We have tabletop campaigns going on like LA by Night, Seattle by Night, and the newly announced campaign with Gentleman Gamer as a storyteller and Jason Carl as a player. Yes! And it's only natural that with all this buzz and Bloodlines 2 coming next year, you may want to get your little butt into role-playing a vampire.
Oh, Bloodlines 2 coming out next year. Oh, when was this video? Oh, when did this video come out? I actually don't know. Because that is sad. Because that did not come out and still hasn't come out. This was December 22nd, 2019. Oh, I wish it came out. I've been wanting a new vampire game to play. Haha.
And to talk to you about it, because I've been co-running and playing and moderating and storytelling the Seattle by Night campaign on Discord for a long time now, and I've seen a lot of players coming, going, improving their roleplay, changing from starting writers to amazing role players, which are just a pleasure to read. And for all this time, we've given a lot of advice to the new players, and I've actually came up with the most common mistakes and the most common flaws of the roleplay that can be tweaked a little bit if you, of course, wish to roleplay a little bit better. Now, please don't treat it as gatekeeping or anything like that. You can really roleplay in any way you want and in any way your storyteller allows you to. These are just general guidelines which not only seem to improve the roleplay a lot and make it more interesting for the others around you, but also seem to make your own roleplaying more fun for you. Very often I've seen that people who I've directed in these ways tend to enjoy the roleplay in general much more. So again, don't worry if you play your vampire differently and if you disagree with some of these.
That's an oof. Yeah, Bloodlines 2. Oof. Yeah, big oof. God.
Points. I just saw in my own experience that they do seem to be helpful for a lot of people, and that's why I want to share them. So let's go. 10 tips on how to roleplay your vampire better. Number 1, don't overthink your backstory. Now this is
By the way, first off, okay. So I assume some of these tips can be related to other TTRPGs. That's just one of those things that crossover happens all the time. First off, Ghost shirt. Fuck yeah. I didn't even register until right now. Ghost. Yes. Good. I appreciate that well, So I understand why you need to preface things with this isn't gatekeeping, though I would argue this inherently isn't, just because fucking you are I suppose just giving advice, I don't think anybody would think giving advice is gatekeeping in their right mind, though this was 2019, so we had a more open mind back then. God, VTM makes me miss a mayor from Milwaukee. Hey, what's up, man? AV. I don't know if you want me to call you AV or like refer to you as your real actual name. But yeah, don't worry. He's dead or something. We still haven't technically my vampire game that I'm still doing. We haven't even met again since January started, and that's when I wanted to start meeting again. So I gotta let people know. Oof. But to be fair, things have been a little crazy these past few weeks for a lot of us. So, whatever works. But dead? Well, I mean, I don't know. No, he's not dead yet. Anyway. So, first thing is, don't go too in depth on your backstory. Let's drag it back a little bit.
Also seem to make your own role-playing more fun for you. Very often I've seen that people who I've directed in these ways tend to enjoy the roleplay in general much more. So again, don't worry if you play your vampire differently and if you disagree with some of these points. I just saw in my own experience that they do seem to be helpful for a lot of people, and that's why I want to share them. So let's go. 10 tips on how to roleplay your vampire better. Number 1, don't overthink your backstory. Now, this is something that a lot of people fall into, and this is also something I've been doing a lot myself. When I was coming up with my new characters, I was immediately thinking about their whole history, where they're coming from, what happened in 76 and 74, and I was trying to flesh out every little tidbit of their backstory, write diaries and whatever before the campaign even started. I don't think it's actually a feature of bad role players. On the contrary, very good role players do focus a lot on their backstory and trying to make those super elaborate characters. But there's one big problem with them. After you pour your heart and soul in the backstory and you make this character super fleshed out, when you push them into the campaign, it suddenly seems like they may not fit. Or they may just feel odd to play. You had absolute control.
Okay, so far I agree. Backstory is an important aspect that, at least for me, I don't really get into until I've played the character for a little bit, once or twice. There are occasions, of course, where I've written a backstory before I've even played the character. And as she said, yes, true. If you focus on each and every little detail, your entire focus is going to be on that for a long while, and really painstakingly sticking to knowing a history for this character. Now, again, as she said, not a bad thing, right? Not a bad thing at all. In fact, if you can work that backstory into your personality some more and really use it as a vehicle for your experiences, right? So like back in the 40s, when your vampire guy was when he wasn't a vampire, he was in World War II, right? Fighting on the front lines. And because of that, he never really got over the fact that he is a little wary of certain people, right? And so it's just something that's kind of retained as he's been in his own life throughout history, right? Of which maybe it's not necessarily a full-on I'm a racist, right? Could be. You could have your character be more like that. Again, it's not an automatically bad thing to go from to play as a character that has that kind of viewpoint and then perhaps changes that viewpoint over time, though it can be very slow. Hold on. Hello.
Hello.
Well.
Real quick.
Okay.
There we go. I had to wait until you called me for me to be able to take a drink despite the fact that I was thirsty.
I see.
Literally just got back from work.
I see.
So 100% am going to be snacking during today's episode.
That's fine.
Kindly, sir, bestow upon me the linkus.
I will give you the linkus. Give me a moment.
Thank you.
There it is for you, sir.
Thank you. Is that the link to the stream or the chat?
The stream itself.
Thank you much. May I have...
I will give you chat link as well.
Donka.
There
Hello,
is
stream.
Chat link. Welcome. All right.
Post watch together. Do that.
Yes. We've just got into first point of the video. So you're not too far behind. Don't worry.
It's Excelidante.
Yes. So basically, so far, she's been explaining to us that you shouldn't be as like hyper focused on your backstory. To such a degree, and there's
what?
Your backstory.
Okay.
Like to a kind of an obsessive degree in a way, right? And there's no problem if you are, of course, as she has said. But it is one of those things where if you stress about it, and I assume that's where she's going with this, if you stress about it too much, it might just detract from your playing in the moment.
The now. Yeah.
Yes.
Edna mode, I never look back, darling. It detracts from the now.
Exactly. Wow, this is okay. This is gonna be weird to you, but I was just talking to my sister not too long ago, and she got several pairs of glasses, and oh hey boo.
Hello.
So my sister got several pairs of glasses, and you said Edna mode, and one of her pairs of glasses made my mom and I think of that. That she looked kind of like that because they were so big and blocky. And it's
nice.
There's just strange coincidence. It's a small world, everything. Anyway.
Much like Sakurai's hit game, Everyone's Here.
Hey!
Yeah. Except for the people that aren't.
Exactly. So...
before we begin, I have... a story. Before Boo and I begin. And you can fucking continue if you want to. I don't care.
I have the ability to just mute your audio and just be fine.
No, you bastard. So last night. This story begins while I was dreaming Adolf.
Bad things tend to happen when he does that.
This one was kind of pleasant because the song "Break the Rules" from the Payday 2 soundtrack was playing in my head.
Okay.
And it was a fantastic time. I was singing some karaoke, absolutely crushing it.
Of course.
And when I woke up, I awoke in a panic because I was like, "Oh no, we don't know what we're talking about on TableTalk yet." And I was supposed to like look up videos, and I forgot. And maybe it was like the afterward, like little bit of flavor in my mind of like wanting some crime.
Right. Yes.
As soon as I started thinking about what we were going to talk about tonight, I was like, I 100% want Vampire the Masquerade.
Okay, that's fair. Yeah. And I'm always down for it because I love this fucking game.
As
It's really
opposed
cool.
to Cyberpunk, where you are pretty much
Yeah,
always
that's true.
playing criminals.
Yeah.
I mean, potentially you
In
could
terms
not.
of, at least, in the eyes of the corporations, who are essentially the leaders, quote unquote, of the world.
In the eyes of the world, you're a vampire that is basically a criminal in its own right.
Yeah, it's true.
In the eyes of the world, I am a trash hobo who throws raccoons like they're machine guns.
That's right. I do remember your idea.
Nice. Where the hell do you get all those raccoons from?
Like
His
they
animal stuff.
just cling to me. I'm
Yeah.
naked all the time. My clothes are actually raccoons.
Dude,
Like
that's fucking cool.
He is
you
a
know
raccoon
that
man.
you know the image of Daniel Radcliffe standing on the street in
Yes.
slippers with like
With the
holding
guns.
up guns.
Yeah.
That's me, but raccoons.
Yes. Exactly.
Nice.
So, yes, to recap for you as well, Boo.
No.
The point is that we're on is the first point that is, an improvement is to not be like super hyper focused on your backstory. Because it can detract. As far as I'm aware, this seems to be going to the point of like it can detract from you paying attention to like how your character would be now. You know, when you're trying to remember that in 1592, you went into an alley once and saw a cat get eaten by a dog. Right? Like you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Being too obsessive can absolutely detract, though. It can absolutely help if you can, use that. And I was making an example of like if your character back before they were a vampire was in the 40s and part of World War II and thus was a little adverse to certain people because of it.
Yeah.
But you could obviously use that and utilize it as something that they can kind of like they retain, but they also like are trying to get over, in a way, and trying to learn to live with it, or maybe not, but they do learn to live with it because of however the story goes, a little bit more than they did before, or maybe that's their target and maybe they're just that bad, against them. That's vampire, this is vampire. You can do whatever the fuck. And so, like I was saying, like you can do all that kind of stuff in this and like have it be because of that backstory or for whatever reason. If you want to be super hyper detailed focused, yeah, do it. Cool. Who is not in the watch together?
Oh,
I'm
me?
here.
Apologies. I didn't realize we
you're
were
good,
watching a video.
Yeah. Yes.
Ooh,
Usually when we
the local problem child.
Yeah. Well, I'm already love the thumbnail because they included fucking what's her name.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
I know who you're talking about. Yeah. Oh, she also, this was from 2019, December 22nd, 2019, and one of the first things she was saying was, oh man, it's great to be a vampire fan right now. Bloodlines 2 is going to come out next year, and I was like, oh.
Yeah. Rip.
Lux says, I had a dream that I was living in a sci-fi FPS trying to fight some giant berserker aliens, and it ended with one of them right up in my face while my gun was taking forever to reload. Yeah.
So Halo 3
Mm.
with the brutes.
Yeah.
90% of my dreams are like that and end with like me dying horrifically. Fun time.
I had a really nice one the other day. That was good.
So Aiden, you dream of 40K?
Yeah.
Basically.
His life is in the universe, unfortunately.
Dude, okay. Like, so, comas, right? You are essentially asleep all the time in a coma.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
Nightmares aren't that bad because at the end of the night, you wake up.
Yeah.
So a nightmare can seem longer, and can seem like a day or two, maybe. But even that's incredibly rare. But in a coma, you're asleep and you're not going to wake up. so you're asleep for however long you're in the coma for.
Of course, yeah.
And if you're in a coma for like 2 weeks and you have a natural proclivity for nightmares, let me tell you, bud, not very fun.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, on that note, let's
Yeah,
continue.
I
talking about the
had nowhere I was going with that.
I understand. I
Yeah,
understand.
that's
Thank you. Lovely segue. Here we go.
On everything that happened to them up until this point. And now everything is steered by the story.
I love her ghost shirt, by the way.
Oh yeah, I also pointed that out. Yeah.
Storyteller and players around you, and your character just doesn't feel that much flexible when it comes to adjusting the new situations. So what I would actually recommend you to do, what I've been doing with my characters a lot, is I do not immediately come up with their backstory. I just come up with what is needed by the storyteller, and I add things on the go as the campaign is unfolding. For example, if
That's okay. That's what I do usually. Because I like to get to know my character first, if you will. You know, I have the basic idea of whoever my guy is, or whoever the fuck, and then I make them, and then that's that session. That's when it all happens. That's when I figure out like how they react to things. As I've said before, sometimes I do make that backstory beforehand, but most of the time it's raw, dude. You know. After that session, I then start thinking, okay, family, okay, prior, you know, money stuff, jobs, that's the word. You know, just those details that would really help shape that character, and kind of get them to be, you know, who they are going to be.
So I've tossed around the idea actually of making characters on the fly like that. I just, unfortunately, I don't think it very much lies in my creative style.
Yeah, I feel that.
Because as soon as I considered showing up to a session 0 or like 1 or 2 and not having stuff at the very least a framework and a general story.
Yeah. Well, so that's what I mean.
Yeah. Because like I'll have like, oh, there was an NPC named so and so who told him this, but I won't have like what that NPC's motivations were. That like I'll have a hometown and motivations and important characters all developed beforehand. But then I'll go in and sort of do a second coat later on down the line.
Sure.
And things will develop slightly as the story goes on. Like my paladin, for instance, we never had his in his backstory anyone who liked him. But there was a random roll that the DM did for a social encounter, and it was a paladin appears and professes her love for a party member, and the entire party was already in like committed relationships, except for my character, and they're like, oh, Morty's socially awkward as fuck. This is gonna be fantastic, and thus Helena was born. And later on, like over the course of the entire campaign, Helena has become his fiance. And recently, I literally just fleshed out how the two of them met, sort of in kind of a flashback. It was Morty getting down on one knee and proposing. And when he proposes, he's like, and when Vandervis at the sanctuary told us this, that you made like special allowances, it all clicked for me. And Vandervis only existed as a vehicle for the two to have met, but he was never a named NPC or anything like that. But as soon as that sentence was said, an NPC named Brother Vandrovis was born. And that's kind of how I'll go about fleshing out character backstories.
Yeah. It's just one of those things where it's like, over time, like in the moment of things, sometimes you just come up with something that really works and that it can really tie in with like what you have in mind. And so you just start going with it, you know? And it's super good. Good times. Happy fun times. Wow.
The story decides that it is a good idea to include one of the people in my backstory in the gameplay, as an NPC, for example. I adjusted that and I came up with our personal history, our relations on the go. It all, of course, depends on your storyteller, but I found it way more playable to have a character which is not fully defined yet at the moment of character creation. If your backstory unfolds in your head as you roleplay the character, I feel like it turns out very often to be more natural, more fitting the story in general, and even often having an actual impact on the campaign. Naturally, your storyteller may want to know things like how you got embraced, who are your touchstones, why exactly these touchstones and not the others, what about your family? You know, some basic outline is of course needed, but it doesn't need to be in depth. The personal relations.
Well, yeah, so I was about to say the touchstones thing, all that kind of, like, all of those examples are part of character creation. So, yeah, they don't have to be fleshed out to any degree, of course, but you can have the names there, you know, because you need those. Because otherwise, I mean, you just have to have that framework.
As my current understanding is of vampire bloodlines, which is admittedly...
You mean the Masquerade?
Bloodlines, yes, the Masquerade. Which is admittedly not stellar. Isn't that stuff all necessary for what is basically kind of your, not class per se, but like...
Isn't that bare minimum of what you need?
It is, like I said, it is literally part of character creation. Touchstones, who embraced you, you don't necessarily need to have immediately. That is, well, it says that that's part of it, but I am kind of a little more loose with that, because it's like, okay, I ask the person, does the person that embraced you matter to you? Like, do they matter to you at all? Do you care? Right? And if it's a yes, then we figure it out from there. If it's a no, then you don't know who you were embraced by, or you're trying to find that out. Either one, you know? Or anything in between, if you can figure that out. It could be whatever you want for that particular aspect. But the touchstone thing is literally, a touchstone is a human in your life that you remain in contact with because they are a key to your humanity still, you know? They're somebody that if you lose them, you lose the ability to have them in your life, you know, so that you can't go to them if you want to just like be human, quote unquote, right? Because the whole balance of humanity thing is the aspect of vampire and all that. But yeah, all of those examples are base character creation. The only part that I like agree with is, yes, you don't need them to be super in depth. Have that outline, absolutely. That's required, unfortunately for you, if you want to play it.
No, you don't need to know that I'm going Forge Cleric. All you need to know is I'm a cleric.
Right, exactly. But yeah, it's just a little strange to me that would be the go-to, whereas I would say, I guess your, like, profession that you do, let's say, in the sense of how you, like, make money to keep your place afloat, like, wherever you're staying, or if you don't even have a job, like, that we can be a little more loose with for a little while, of, like, okay, what do you do? Like, do you get money somehow? Well, even then, so we went over character creation a while ago. It was a long time ago in the first time we covered vampire.
Yes.
And part of that
before I became a vampire.
Yes. Part of that is you are able to take what is it called? Fuck. There are pips that you can put into like things like wealth or starting wealth, your like hideout, your God, let me get the book. It's right over here.
There you go.
Like, I have it right here. Because I fucking love this, but the fact that I can't think of it is really a testament to my brain, more so than my desire to play this game. Okay, here we go. Your advantages and your flaws. That's what they're called. So, in creation of your character, you get the ability to put pips into these things up to a certain amount, depending on how you want to take them, right? You can be specialized, you can be, you can have, or not really specialized, but you can take 7 pips in whatever you want for advantages, and I believe it's like 3 or 4 pips in flaws. They're all in the same section on page 179 in the core rulebook, starting there and going to quite a ways. But if you were to take some of these help with your backstory as well, because, like, you could take, for instance, the fact that you have a retainer. And a retainer is like somebody that's under your control, but not necessarily a ghoul, right? They can be a ghoul if you have 2 pips in it, but if they're like a 1 pip retainer, then you have like a child who's like, an orphan or something that you use, like fucking some street rat or whatever.
No, it's Robin.
Yeah, absolutely. You have like a criminal lowlife that is one of your guys, or a horror nerd who follows you. Like stuff like that. Somebody who's a weak mortal, like that isn't too important, right? And then with 2 pips, you have like a ghoul, a family servant, a lover.
Some OnlyFans simp with a blood thing.
Yes, exactly. Like, that's the thing. So with that, I would go, okay, who is that? Right? Like, how did this come about? Because you don't have to tell me exactly how it came about, but we can have a loose framework there, right? But that helps with like backstory, or like you could have a fucking cult, you could have not a cult, or they could be a cult, but you can have a following of like a herd, which is what they're called. Where you have like, if you have a single pip of in a herd, then you have like 5 people max who you just hang around, right? And it's like, okay, who are they? Like, why is this the case? So in those kinds of things, it's, for vampire, at least to me, it seems a lot easier to get more detailed because you have this that helps you go, what do I have? Who am I and how did I get this? Especially with the fact of like,
Alejo, I have a question for you.
Yes, absolutely.
Can I have 3 raccoons for every pip?
Yeah, I guess.
for when you run this campaign,
right? Of course, I know I would, and yeah, I'd say 3 raccoons equals a person.
Oh yeah.
If you want to have them as a retainer, or if you, I guess for a herd, then 3 raccoons could be your 1, and then 6 for your 2. I guess so.
Yeah. Raccoon boy.
It'll be a little weird, but yeah, I love it.
Are you going to be playing as a Nosferatu?
I don't think I even determined.
Okay, because I was gonna say, like, fucking a guy walking around with living raccoons as his clothing is gonna be pretty fucking noticeable. So you may as well be a Nosferatu.
Right. I think you were leaning towards the actual like animal, the
them. Yeah. I forgot
oh
them.
god, why can't I gang oh, fuck. It's right here. Gangrels. Yes, gangrels. Anyway, so all that to say, yes, you can be as detailed or as scant as you want. Have the outlines, but I feel like with vampire it's a lot easier to detail this stuff over time or beforehand. Anyway, here we go.
You had with people in your backstory, everything that happened in between you and your sire. If your storyteller doesn't need that at the very start, try maybe to give yourself a bit of an open window, so you can feel those details as the campaign goes. To give you an example for that, I was actually roleplaying this guy in Edge of the Masquerade campaign and later in Seattle by Night, who had a lover back in the days, and it was his first child, and they had this long history together. And it was only at the moment when we tried to steer some drama, when I came up with the idea that there was some huge freaking betrayal going in between these two back in the days. That the whole idea that they were lovers were only steered by my character, who puppeteered people behind the scenes just to make it happen unnaturally. And this actually caused one of the most memorable scenes in our campaign, in which the other character kind of torn my character's male parts off and put him into torpor. It was great. And when I was creating this character, I had no idea that this thing actually happened. It just emerged later on in the roleplay, and I was like, you know what? Let's add some drama. Let's spice it up a little bit. So yeah, that'll be my tip number 1. Do not overthink your backstory. Let it unfold naturally. Tip number 2. Great shit doesn't mean great roleplay. It's very much connected with the...
Oh, yeah. The easiest one to say. Your stats don't mean that you're the best.
Yeah.
No, I agree. And, like, it's something that people should know. You know?
Yeah.
Ooh. I think there was someone that we've discussed that equated good stats to a good character.
Oh, you're probably right. It sounds familiar to me, but I don't remember. Somebody will let us know. If they're a real fan. No. But
they'll either donate and let us know, no doubt. If they're a real fan.
I hate.
Just be sure that you go back through every single episode.
I would agree. And yeah, go for it. Do that. But hey. So
oh no, I'm just saying having to watch 100 episodes and it's like 4 hours each.
People are dedicated. Anyway, it's something you do while you do work and shit.
Yes.
So okay. The only thing that your stats determine is the fact that you have this ability to like be okay in situations. Especially with vampire. The thing that really puts you on your ass at times is your fucking hunger die. Because that will always be that random element that will sometimes just fuck with you. Because you're a fucking vampire. Okay? The beast inside you, beast inside you is a beast. It is not something you can control. It is something that you live with, right? And the fact that that is there as an element that's always going to be behind you can really hinder you in terms of perfect example, I guess, of the beast being suppressed. My other vampire campaign, they were I was doing the quick start guide game, and they were inside of a apartment building, a abandoned kind of, or not abandoned, sorry, construction is being done on a building. It's not fully done yet, but it is squatted in, right? And they were trying to find whoever was in there because they were being led there. And eventually the kind of encounter thing that happens there is that they're noticed because people are being led to believe that whoever is killing these people is like hiding there. And so they come in with weapons, one of them being Molotovs, homemade Molotovs, very easy to make. And they basically are there to kill whoever it is that's doing it because they're pretty sure that the whoever it is there. And so they set fire to the place. And one of the things that can happen is a frenzy roll. Specifically a fear frenzy when you're in the presence of something that's overwhelmingly bad for your vampire. So the beast will try to take over and get you the fuck out of there, right? Thankfully, when the frenzy test happened, my friend who was their character was inside of the building. He rolled it out and was able to remain there, hidden in his obfuscate, so that he wasn't seen before he got out of the building. But instead of just flinging himself out the window,
Jesus.
With reckless abandon from 2 stories up. So it was great, but it's one of those things where even because you have like the willpower, hell, you might have the best willpower and stuff, it gives you a better chance, but it's still a chance, right?
Yeah.
And yes, you being big in your body or in your brain in whatever ways makes it so that your character is technically better, but that doesn't mean, necessarily that you are going to be that,
Yeah,
You mean real?
Sorry. Come on.
I was gonna say, like, having higher stats can make a character more convenient to play. But like, dude, like, I don't believe Sinclair has particularly stellar stats, does he, Boo?
Sinclair?
Yeah.
No, he's got like ridiculous dex.
Yeah, that's his thing. Dex.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's it, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the majority of them are just kind of okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Boris has got ridiculous dex, but like has a strength of 10.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like, you can make incredibly flavorful, fun to play, and compelling characters independent of stats.
Yeah, absolutely.
This I thought was well known, but
yeah. Well, for some people it seems to not drive into their skulls. Lux says I probably commented on that, on which one it was. Probably you commented on the episode. Yeah. So the way that Brogan plays Sinclair, no nat ones for those of you who don't know. The way that Brogan plays Sinclair, he plays him so much more high society, right?
Yes.
So much more charismatic than he probably is stat wise, right?
Yes.
And I believe it. Right? Like, it's one of those things where it's like, yeah, just because your stat doesn't says that you're not so good doesn't mean that you're gonna, like, it basically means that you might make a faux pas still, right? But you can still act your part, like, quite easily. Like, most of the time, I don't know, role-playing wise for me, stats only come into play when I need you to, like, unless you've not convinced me with your role-playing, like, that's when it's like, oh, okay, make like a charisma, like do a persuasion, do a diplomacy, do a whatever. That's when it's like, okay, but even then it's like, you might have convinced me, but I also want to see if it's just one of those things that puts you over the edge of like, okay, you can have this, absolutely. I might still give it to you anyway because you've done it so well, but usually I would like to just not even have to roll in those cases.
Usually the way I do, like, if a person is trying to persuade a person to do something, I will ask for them to give their reasoning and then afterward make a persuade roll. The reason why I do that is because I treat how do I put this? I treat their roleplay as, like, more or less like imagine sort of a slider on a bar.
Yeah.
And you sort of slide it to cover a few inches. Their roleplay is moving that slider.
Yes.
And then their role is determining whether it's the bottom 15% of that zone or the top 15% of that zone.
Yeah, exactly.
Or somewhere in between.
It's it's like old 3.5 used to is technically where every NPC starts at 0 unless they for some reason start lower than that or higher than that depending on who you are. But every NPC has like a threshold of like this is where you'll kind of get to after you do diplomacy checks and all that shit. And it's not necessarily 1-to-1. I'm just saying that there's a scale there that it reminds me of like how well you're received and stuff. And like with any of this well, anything I would say, any TTRPG in general nowadays, I feel like the diplomacy being more of a, or diplomacy and persuasion being more of a kind of substitute in a way for some roleplay moments, feels like it is kind of, it feels like it's more inherent to it. I guess not. Okay, so not exactly that. I guess it's more just D&D. It's unfortunate. Okay, so with D&D specifically 5e, like persuasion feels way too or way less convincing than it used to. It feels, and I'm not necessarily saying that's how it's used. I'm just saying from looking at it, it feels a lot less like what it was used for before. In the sense of it being a, I don't want to say persuader. I want to say influence instead of
an influencer?
An influencer?
Yes, it's an influencer. Thank you, both of you. It's an influencer instead of it being, it is less of an influencer and more of a, what's the word?
Pokimane?
She got banned for like 2 days.
As opposed to
opposed to other people that have done the same thing who've been banned for like a month.
Oh
yeah, it's great. Anyway, different topic, but but
oh no, Pokimane was only banned for 2 days. Probably still the highest grossing Twitch streamer.
Yeah,
one of them. But it feels like more of a not a finale, but like a closer in a way of like, this is like the be all end all. Like it just makes it so that it's like, this is, if it works, it works. If it doesn't work, you have no chance whatsoever. Right? It feels like not a last resort, but it is something that is final. Does that make any sense? Have I been completely crazy this whole time?
Yes.
Okay.
What I think you're trying to say,
please,
or at least what I am getting
interpret
from
it for me.
Yeah, like when you use when you try to influence somebody, are you trying to say that it's like, if you fuck it up, you're basically done and there's no middle ground?
Yes.
Okay.
It's that, and like if you succeed with a
if you succeed, it's just 100% success, and if you fail, it's 100% failure. There's no middle ground.
Binary.
Yes, it is. Thank you. Binary. Yes.
Yeah, there you go.
I don't.
So there's no degrees. There's no partial credit.
Yes, exactly. In which case, I would say a negotiation itself kind of has that back and forth, right? Where you have, tipping scales.
Now, here's the thing. I don't remember if it was in an earlier edition of 3.5 or an early edition of D&D, but I did see a video from Z Bashu about how he was apparently doing, and how the majority of people, are doing persuasion and social stuff wrong. Where if you do social stuff like that, it's not meant to be, like, rules as written, it's not meant to be an instant success.
No, of course. That's the thing. It isn't supposed to be. That's my point. It's not supposed to be, but it seems to be interpreted that way.
Yeah,
like,
it is.
A lot of the time.
I think just in general, a lot of the rules as they were initially written, the trend I've noticed seems to have been a lot of them have gotten simplified into something different than what they were intended.
Exactly.
Oh, absolutely.
Exactly.
Because it's 5e. It has to be simple.
The simplicity, unfortunately, has made it so that you can simplify it to such a degree that it still, like, works. Whereas if you were to add more clear, definitions to everything, then it'd be like, okay, well, we have the thing right here that we have to read and actually, like, comprehend more, I feel. Though I don't know. Anyway, that was a whole. I'm done. Can you tell that my brain fucking is shutting down?
Yep.
I apologize out there. I need to go to sleep soon. Let's continue.
Over sheet, and a lot of people are doing that. They are sitting with the book and making sure, okay, in this particular campaign, I've heard we're going to go down the sewers, so I will probably need survival and athletics and maybe some stealth. And people are very often putting dots into things that they think will be useful. And in the end, they are ending up with these perfectly tailored sheets for a campaign, but it lacks character per se. What about, yeah, sure, you know that the campaign is going to be more combat oriented, but your character has a scholar/student background, and should he really know how to use daggers? I think it's very easy to fall into this trap of trying to make up mechanically perfect character and try to min-max everything just to try to have this invincible character.
Okay.
That being said, I can relate to like the desire that would cause that, which is you want to be an asset to your team.
Yeah, that is also, like, it's the thing that we've talked about of, like, just because you min-max doesn't mean you don't have a character.
Yeah.
Right? Like, min-maxing a character also means that you have a character. Like, they can still be role-playing and all that stuff. It just means that they're highly specialized in whatever it is that they're doing. They're just the best at whatever it is.
I think it's important to, if you're making a character and you intend to do some min-maxing, I think it's very important to take a step back, look at your sheet, and think about your character and think, okay, I intend to min-max, and I have min-maxed. I'm comfortable with this, but is there a way that I can make sense of this min-maxing in the story? Because say you have, I don't know, let's say, is there a samurai class in, like, Pathfinder or something, or no?
There's one in 5e.
Okay, then we'll say you make a samurai, and say you just make him really, really, really good with, his sword or whatever. You put all your fucking points into swording. You just kind of need to take a step back and say, okay, why is he this good at this? Is there a reason that I can point to and be like, well, he literally spent his entire life in this temple training for the moment when he would go out to try to surpass his master. And he has seen, growing up there, training there, he has seen student after student after student leave and try to do it, but they always fail. He's going to be the one to succeed. And so he dedicated himself entirely. He studied the blade.
He did.
He studied the blade.
But do you even have to study the blade to be good at it? I mean, it's folded like 10,000 times.
There it is.
I know, right? Yeah, Jesus. Yeah. So one of the things that I did when I made my vampire character, I put a fair amount. I remember, actually, you know what? I think I still have the sheet. Let me see. I remember putting a fair amount of points into one particular thing. Vampire. Here we go.
You're good, Slay.
Toreador
Don't worry
guy.
about that.
Right. I put a ton of points into my dex and my athletics.
Yes, because you were a tagger,
Parkourman.
I believe. Yeah.
Yes, because I'm obsessed with that character type.
Yeah.
I don't know why. So the reason why and I have like 3 different levels of shit in celerity.
Yeah.
Cat's grace, fleetness, and traversal. So he's really fucking good at movement. And that's pretty much it. He's very good at stealth, streetwise, and movement and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, so he's Boris.
Yes.
Yeah, in a way.
Yeah. And so he's really, really, really good at that. And there was an actual character reason for that.
Exactly.
Now, that will also really be super helpful in gameplay, because if you need to get up a fucking wall, I'm the one who's going to be running up that wall, tying the rope off, and be like, hey, come on up. And so I just made him that parkourman.
Exactly. So, yeah, I think that, and it's like we fight against it all the time, of like this thing of like, oh, don't min-max. It's like, well, so you can.
Yeah, you can.
You can. It's just maybe have more of an open mind while you're doing it. Like like you said, think of reasons.
Just think of a reason why he's good at it.
Yeah. By the way, Lux, sorry I didn't see you until right now, but see you around. Hope you have a good.
Hi,
good
Lux. Bye,
day.
Lux.
Anyway, yeah. So the other thing that I wanted to kind of touch on is like, you made this character this way because it would work for the campaign. Considering now, given her example, you are in a more combat-heavy campaign, and your character has a scholar background. Should they really know how to use a dagger? It's like, why not? First off.
Yeah, why not?
Second off, you're bringing a character into this combat-oriented campaign that you know is combat-oriented, and you don't want to give them anything in combat? Is that what I'm getting? Because if not... Well, so, like, could be. If not, then I assume that we could have it so that in combat you can do more still. But in the sense of, if your character is a scholar who's a vampire, I'm sure we could reason that your character knows how to do certain things. Like, potentially knows how to work. Well, I mean, regardless of the fact, you know how to point and shoot a gun.
Yeah.
You know how to fucking swing a thing. Like, you don't have the stats for it, sure. You're not going to be very good at it,
but you
granted. But you can do it. And the way that Vampires combat works is, like, it's a roll-off, usually. And your successes against their successes is basically how damage is done. And combat is very infrequent, usually, at least for me. I would have it be infrequent because it's a deadly game still. Even though you're a vampire. Against, like, a normal guy, you're fine. But, like, against a guy with a flamethrower, you're not so fine. You know, or
just shoot the gas tanks.
Exactly, yeah.
It's starting to sound like, this is a combat, again, it's a combat-heavy campaign. Bring a scholar. You bring a guy who's bad at combat. This is sounding an awful lot like you started the Gelt Green campaign and you don't have any fucking federal agents.
No, so that's the thing.
I know, I'm joking.
I was gonna say, yeah, I'm just
making, yeah, no, I'm joking.
In that case, I would go so far as to say, no, you started a Delta Green campaign, no federal agents for any of your characters that your players are having, and you didn't have a backup plan.
Yeah, we don't have a backup plan, and we don't have any guns.
You didn't foresee this. You didn't foresee this being
I'm just joking.
No, I know.
That being said, I'm in the next campaign, the second campaign that I'm going to be part of,
Mm.
I happen to know for a fact will be very combat heavy.
Sure.
And I am, me and my DM worked together to make a new class. We call it the Partyficer.
Right. Yes.
Nice. Oh yeah.
It's
I remember
an
you talking about
artificer that makes like party stuff, and it's like Gregor Wolfspite. Actually, I don't know if we streamed.
We talked about it on stream. I remember you talked about it on stream.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
But Alejo and Boo, you'll know it as Gregor Wolfspite from the Pathfinder 2e campaign because
Yes.
I was play testing stuff.
Mhm.
And boy, oh boy, I'm not the best in combat. I can pull stuff off just like in being clever.
Yes. Exactly.
With what I have. And so even with that, I'm still passable in combat. I'm just not going to be the best.
Well,
Not going to be getting any killing blows.
Yeah, there's a difference between making a character that can do combat in a combat-heavy campaign and making a character that seems antithetical to it.
Yeah.
Right? Because from what I gather with this example so far, it's been like, does your character really need to know how to fight in this combat-heavy campaign? And I'm like, that doesn't seem to be the attitude that I think that you should have in the thing, because you are going to be more of a hindrance unless you have, I hope, talked it out with your storyteller in this case. Talked it out with your storyteller and figured out a way for it to work out fine, where you are specifically going to be doing like more environmental stuff or something, you know? Like, I just want, I guess I need more context here, because otherwise it just doesn't sound like something that seems sensible. In the sense of something that is going to fit in the campaign itself with your group, that I hope you've discussed beforehand or are going to discuss how you would like play this character and how it would go about. Right? Because with like the understanding that we already have of this is a combat heavy campaign, if I don't make a character that can at least do a combat, a singular combat, then it's like, okay,
why are you here?
What? So like, are you going to be purely a support character in a way? Like, what are we doing here? You know?
Yeah.
Because
that, honestly, that starts to be more like you're just not playing ball.
Right, exactly. That's kind of where I'm going with it. It's just like,
yeah,
it feels that way, but again, I don't have enough context to really cement myself in that camp yet, you know?
Yeah, because I know that I actually have done that once.
Yeah, same.
Where I did it as a joke.
Sure.
And it's not the character that I'm talking about, because I've talked about that bard who's like, what the fuck? No, right. Fuck, it's dangerous out there. You don't go out there, you know. It's not that. It was actually when you and me, Alejo, were playing that one shot of Pathfinder under Brogan. It was the very first time I played Pathfinder, where I became the wind.
Yes.
And we showed up at this castle, and there was a very, very obvious way to go into the castle. And so, looking at the map, I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to go through the front door. We're going to go around it.
That's right, yeah. I do remember. It was great.
And so, I was like, you know, because I hadn't played in fucking, I don't know, like well over a year at that point. So I'm like, you know what? I just want to fuck around a little bit. Yeah. So I'll do this. And we went around, and we wound up fighting a big fuck off frog. So they had planned for that, which was good. And then after that, you know, I played ball for the rest of it.
Right. Well, so the other thing is, you still made a character who could fight. Right?
Yes, like exactly.
But that's, again, Pathfinder has a lot of combat focused stuff. Whereas with Vampire, you could make somebody who fucking sucks, like cannot do combat very well at all. The
only saving grace, ironically, is that they're a vampire, and they have some abilities that might allow them to circumvent it.
Exactly. So that's the thing. If you're going to circumvent it with your powers, Like you're going to use your dominate in order to, turn enemies against you or give them a flash of like forgetfulness in the middle of combat, right? For like 10 seconds ago where they just completely forget what happened, and so then they just blink in and try, and then you like create advantage and stuff. There are ways to do it, right? I need this context of like, what are you doing here? Because I need you to be more specific. Otherwise you're just telling me, my guy's just not going to fight. And I'm like, okay.
Because at least if I have more context to what you're trying to do, I can kind of tailor shit so that it fits your character better. So you can have a better time.
Exactly. And like you'll actually like be useful in a situation where there's combat, and we're not having you just sit out every time,
Now, how this is kind of ancillary to the issue, but in how many systems do you think that this could become a major issue? Because in thinking about this, I feel like in D&D, it wouldn't be that bad because of spells. Because if you make a character that's bad at combat, you can at least make them very good in utility.
Yeah.
In Pathfinder, you can probably do much the same. I don't know as much about their spell list. Vampire, I'm not as familiar with it. Cyberpunk, you can probably do it.
I think it really just depends on the mindset, right? Because I could say that I make a character who completely does not do combat. I could do that. But in a combat situation, as Aiden put, I could be resourceful. I could be useful in that way with like items and such. I could the system itself for Vampire and the way that combats work is basically I tell you what's going on, and then we go through initiative. It's just like Dex, I think, related, and then I go, or maybe it's awareness. Anyway, so it's based on everybody has their own thing. You go on whatever round, and I just go, what do you do, right? And then you say whatever you want to do, and I give you rolls, right? And that's it. That's the entire thing, right? So like you want to go and try to get to. It's basically how I ran the encounter that we had in Astatine. Basically exactly like that. I'll give you a certain amount that you can do, except in this, there's a lot more skill list, it seems, that would work in a combat scenario. Well, I say that, but I also think that a lot of the skills in Delta Green could be depending on what's going on and how you want to use them. But regardless, so I just go, hey, you want to get across the room and try to stab the guy while like sprinting full on. Okay, let's make some rolls. You do your brawl, and then, you do your running roll, which would be, I would say, probably a combination of, probably just a body, or not a body, probably
athletics.
Athletics. Well, it's more just to
you have to make a roll to run.
No, what I'm saying in this scenario, sorry, my brain is like filling in the blanks for me as I'm kind of talking about it. In the scenario itself, in this combat scenario, we're talking about this room where your characters would be on one side. The other side is like a bunch of gangers, okay? And then they're like shooting at you. They're trying to advance as well. Whilst in the middle of the room, there's like tables and chairs and stuff like that, just in the center. And my determination of the fact of how effective your charge would be, not that you wouldn't be able to get across the room, it's more of the effectiveness of the charge into your brawl. If you're trying to go punch a guy, right? Like you're trying to go deck him straight up, I would have you roll for how well you get through that situation of like the center of the room and all the bullets and stuff, and how well you keep your balance and shit to give that extra momentum to like an attack, right? I'm kind of thinking of that more so than it's not just a running roll, right? I'm adding more to what you're doing because of it, because of the situation. So if that explains it for you. Yeah, okay, cool. Anyway, that's enough of my diatribe. Here we go.
Yes.
To come up with something more realistic and focus less on the fact that this particular ability is less useful than the other one. As an example of my own experience, I actually did make a Malkavian character recently, and it was supposed to be a fledgling, a very fresh vampire, who is in general pretty innocent yet when it comes to just going into the world of darkness and uncovering all of these things. So while it would be more useful for me to put him dots in the dominate and give them the ability to compel people or to make them forget things, I was like, this guy is just too innocent to do things like that. I'm just going to give him higher specs instead. Now, the third point is...
Okay. So, with that example, there's nothing wrong with that. Nothing whatsoever. Make your character however you want. That's it.
Okay. Victory.
Nice.
Yep.
It's not this, and for those wondering, this is just a difference of, this doesn't seem to be anything to do with, like, the campaign itself. It's just the character themselves, that's how they are. And it's like, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Nothing, like, unless you were going to say, oh, I'm going to bring this scared child fledgling vampire into a game where we're, like, in political intrigue that's, well, even then I'd be like, yeah, sure, we can do it, but it's like...
Yeah, I mean, that sounds kind of interesting, honestly.
Yeah, like, you're trying to go through this landscape that you have no fucking idea and you're so new to. I mean, in general, that's just neat. But, I guess it's more just the, like, and I have no want or desire to engage with it, right? Which is what I got as more of a vibe from the dagger comment. But anyway.
Yeah.
It's one of the most important points of this whole video. Avoid self-inserts. I think a lot of us...
yeah.
Well, I mean, that's pretty much all RPGs.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, yeah.
Most everything that's been said thus far has been applicable to every RPG.
Yeah,
for the
absolutely.
most
Well, that's
part.
the thing. Every RPG has that crossover, you know, with role playing, because it's all role playing games, you know.
Yeah.
Playing adventures, we did a self-insert or two, or three, or even more. And even if the character wasn't as a concept a self-insert, we added self-inserty things into them, which caused the trouble about which I'm going to talk about in a second. What is a self-insert though? Is if you take your own features, your own characteristics, your own personality, your own morals, and you push it all on your character. You basically make a role-playing copy of yourself. I've seen dozens of examples of self-inserts, from a very hardcore self-inserts, people who are even using their selfies as face claims, so their characters even looked like them, to milder versions where people...
Ooh.
Yeah.
It's like what I would do as a cringy 13-year-old.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, I understand people doing that. It you know, it's fine, I guess. But
This character's name is Night Stalker Shadowblade. He looks exactly like me, and he has like 7 girlfriends.
Exactly. That
And they
I'm
all
like,
have
okay.
like big boobies.
Right, yeah. Well, so this is the thing, right? Like,
God.
if you're just gonna be you in a game, then sure, I don't care. You know, that's fine. But if you're gonna be hyper cool you, then I'm like, okay.
Oh boy.
Where are we? What year is it?
It's not fucking 1997 anymore.
Technically didn't make their self-inserts at the start, but when they weren't really getting along with another player, they actually started to not get along in the gameplay. Or, even worse, in my opinion, they were playing with their boyfriend, girlfriends, or someone they have a crush on, and they were specifically making their characters mingle and smooch in the roleplay as well. I would say don't. I would really recommend people to avoid doing this, because it very rarely leads to good things. It very often leads to many problems. So what happens when you play as a self-insert? You wish them well. That's the very first mistake, because in World of Darkness, good things rarely happen. Of course, it depends on your storyteller, but it is a world of darkness. It's
Okay, so just Now, so I'm already just having an issue with this because just because I wish my character well doesn't necessarily mean that it's bad. Because even in the world of darkness, there is still light. Is fucking, whatever as that sounds, right? But like legitimately good people.
The whole purpose of the game is to not succumb to it.
Yeah. Well,
that's
so like
the thing. Or trying to not to.
That's true, but the other thing is like you can go as dark as you want, sure, but that still doesn't mean that you're fully like a vampire, the beast, right?
Yeah.
The beast is mindless. The beast is pure, uncontrollable hunger, right? Like that's as far as that goes. And like the worse things you do, the more humanity you lose. Yes, but it doesn't mean that you can't do good things as a vampire, right? Oh god, I can see and I know in my game itself, one of the characters is trying to be a good person still because that's just who they want to be, right? Like as a being, right? Like as a person themselves, they just want to be a good person. And so like yes, they've done bad things because vampire.
Yes.
In the sense of accidentally killing people at times. Not regretting it because remorse system. Or like just because they were so hungry they had to, or because there was a feeding frenzy that happened, because blood was spilled and it was just fresh and all over and yum, yum. But ultimately their goal is to just continue to be, right? And in that way they're trying to uncover like a serial killer. Like that's what they're doing. More so what they're doing than a lot of the others. The others are kind of, they're along for the ride, but they're also kind of getting more into what they need to do in order to keep living their lives. So it's just, and like in having this beforehand, she said inserting elements of yourself into a character, of which I kind of have a little bit of pushback on, because I will do that in the sense of giving my character a little bit of a mindset that I have in certain respects, right? Just to see how I can challenge that in situations, right? For instance, I guess with Gimbal, my 5e wild sorcerer, I had, I've talked about this before. I had a few things in him that I was like, this is kind of something that I know, so I can kind of play that in this character, and kind of see how it would be, how it could be challenged, or how it could be brought up, or how it could be managed in these situations. Not that, they'll ever come up for me, but it's just interesting to me, right? And so kind of not really therapy in a way, right? Not really therapeutic in that sense, but just in general interest. And so ultimately, because of the whole wild magic thing, he very much was full of self-loathing and a whole bunch of other kinds of things, and it was interesting to me to see that kind of become more and more of a thing that he wanted to deal with, because of the wild magic, and how far he would try to go in order to fix it, in order to stop that, in order to protect himself and other people, even if it wasn't necessarily for that in the beginning. It kind of became that as he made these relationships with other people. And it was just interesting to see that kind of evolve. And I wanted the best for him, but I also understood that he could die, you know? Just because I want the best for a character that has traits that I relate to does not mean that it is a bad thing. I don't know. There was this anime, one of the characters was a vampire that gave blood instead of drinking it. Ooh, they gave it?
Huh.
That's interesting.
That's weird.
How did they subsist?
Like, to turn someone, you mean?
I don't know.
Because normally, like, even in Vampire, like, you drink someone dry and then give them a bit of your blood to sire a new vampire.
Yep, that's true. Anyway, we'll wait for further response.
The world of hunger, despair. People don't trust you, they don't like you, they betray you, they want to hurt you, they want to kill you. And you wishing so well to your character in the end may end up with you really burning out and feeling really bad about yourself if something happens to your character. Not even mentioning the relations with other players. Let's say that you play with your boyfriend-girlfriend and...
Okay, so before we get to boyfriend-girlfriend stuff, so I guess my thing would be, I guess don't go to such an extent where you put like your value in that character, like to such a degree where you're going to become, I don't know, like super fucking hurt because of the character going through bad stuff.
In general, I would recommend a pro tip I've discovered, which is learn how to distinguish fact from fiction.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like, it's so weird that, like, and I understand being moved by something, sure.
Yeah.
However that feels for you, if you get that feeling, if you don't, whatever, like, that's fine. But getting to such a degree where something can actually, like, it's the Garibay thing of, like, putting yourself so fucking in there to the point where you this is part of your, like, identity to a degree. And I understand for some people, Vampire itself was, like, part of their identity, at least back when it was first a thing. I do remember and know and recognize that, like, because it was just
middle school.
Well, it was just a way for them to really express themselves, but you know what I mean. Yeah. It's just something that they really resonated with, and that's fair. But I also would say that they also would go, it's a game.
Yeah.
Right? Like, this is a character that I'm playing. Even if I'm self-inserting, even if you're going that far, then fucking... like to such a degree of like it being you but cool, right?
It strikes me as the exact same energy of when I'll discuss one of my D&D characters with I don't know, someone particularly pious.
Sure.
Or whatever it happens to be, and I'll describe my new D&D character who is a war criminal, and then they go, well, why would you want to play an evil character?
That,
and you just go,
You put your forehead in your hand, you lean slightly towards that side, and then you sigh deeply.
Yeah.
It's somewhat related to the fact that actually no, it's not related at all. Never mind.
Okay.
Ignore that point.
I ignored it.
Okay.
What I was going to say, it's somewhat related to the whole like video games and violence thing, right? Where like that's actually been disproven many a time, but people still try to tout it as like a thing. And like the be all end all.
Dude,
and don't get me wrong.
It'll be that way forever. There's people that try to say that masks don't work.
Right, exactly. That's my yes, exactly. There's a lot of things out there. People think and but
I think is a generous term, but okay.
Fair. You know what? I'm a generous man. You may attempt to convey it as a thought. But yeah, it's have a moment to self-reflect and go, am I really getting so upset over a fantasy?
Yeah, like,
you know,
Jesus.
It's just one of those things of self-reflection. And again, like I said, I understand being moved by something, and maybe it helps you with your own outlook or something, but to such a degree where it could break the fuck out of you, it's like you need to do something else. You need to figure out what's going on with you. Okay, you gotta have a talk with somebody.
If your life is severely going to be swung in either direction, I would encourage you to take a moment, pause, self-reflect on the fact that you probably don't have enough cementing you into the real world. Reality, or potentially reevaluate your priorities.
Anyway, armchair psychologist. I don't think they ever address it, but she has a condition where she produces lots of blood, and how she handles it, she has to force in random people.
Yeah.
The name is Karen. It's more of a comedy.
Of course
it is.
Gotcha. Okay.
So that being said, I'm going to go against this entire diatribe we've gone on, and mention there was a moment in the last session of Boo's campaign we had, actually, where we talk about what's his fucking face, nice guy, depressed, slept a lot,
Maxneer.
We talk about Maxneer's depression and how he wanted to go to sleep, and how his diary entries went once every day to once every 3 days, once every week, once every month, once every 1,000 years. And how he's in one of his journal entries, he says how much he wanted to go back to sleep. Which, as someone who had the very bad depressive few 3 or 4 years,
you can say high school. I also did.
That didn't affect me till college.
Oh, well, lucky you.
God damn it.
Woo!
But I was similarly affected too, because if I was asleep, it was a coin toss, and 50% of the time I would be happy in my dreams. Whereas I could be awake and be sad 100% of the time, and I kind of got addicted to sleep.
Nothing a little sleep won't fix.
And seeing Maxneer talk about that hit me so it. Yeah. I was a soccer ball gently laid down on the field, and then fucking penalty kicked.
Yeah, and then I
goal.
fucking sprint full fucking screen, full fucking speed. When I reach it, I don't kick it. I shoot it with a fucking shotgun.
Yeah, we all remarked on it afterwards.
Yeah, and that being said, I can totally relate to this. It can be the high of highs and the low of lows to have your something affect your emotional state. But I would not recommend it as something that you put into practice. Yeah. And it was something that was unintentionally done on both Boo's and mine parts.
Now I knew
Boo had, well, you couldn't have had any idea that junior year, what happened, and
Right,
Yeah.
exactly.
me loving sleep, but
Now I knew that us four are all kind of cut from the same cloth, at least to an extent. And so I knew that, and let's see. I knew that going with a simple reason behind his depression would be an effective way to go. And I also knew that, not even having asked any of you directly, just by our hobbies and what we're into, I knew for a fact that at some point we, all four of us, had experienced some form of very, very, very strong loneliness. I know it. I don't even have to ask. And you don't have to tell me. I just know. And so I went with that because I knew it would hit home.
Right.
Because that's a very, very common feeling to have and to sympathize with. Because it's not something that ever really comes up nowadays.
Right.
Because when you're lonely, you don't want to say anything, even though you need to.
Yeah.
Because when you're lonely, obviously, you spend a lot of time alone. And you think for yourself a lot. You talk to yourself and you think for yourself. And then you start to come up with stuff. You know what I mean? When you're lonely, you start to think that there's a reason why you are. And you start to go down these dark paths. And one of the paths that many, many people tread, myself included, is if I admit that I'm lonely and ask for people to hang out with me, they will think I'm being clingy. You know what I mean? And they don't want to hear that. And so...
yeah, I am a burden.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yes, it is the I am a burden. Absolutely.
Yes.
Yep. That's the one.
You never can. You can never say it, even though, again, you should. And so it's incredibly hard to talk about loneliness. It's nigh impossible to talk about it. And so it's
80% of the people easily who have issues with loneliness will be like, haha, nope, not me.
Yep.
Yeah, and they push it away. One of my favorite terms to use, one of my favorite terms to think of when I'm feeling like I'm clever is where do you hide a forest? I mean, where do you hide a tree? You hide it in a forest. Where do you hide a smile?
Yeah.
Or where do you... I'm sorry. I got that backwards. Where do you hide tears?
Oh, okay.
Behind a smile.
Gotcha. Yeah.
So you can't...
There's a song I would... this goes along with your point, Boo. There's a song I would highly recommend to everyone in the audience. It's a song by Iron Maiden. They did a song celebrating Robin Williams.
Oh, man. Okay.
Oh, nice.
And his issues with depression. The song is called Tears of a Clown.
Oh,
yeah. There you go.
Yeah. So it's and that's one of the things that I pride myself on as a writer is I like to dive very, very, very deeply into something that's very, very simple, because I can literally explain every single action that Mexnir takes in the campaign, has taken, and will take because of one word.
Yeah.
He is lonely.
Yeah.
That's it. It's as simple as that. I actually have another character that I wanted to do. I don't know if I ever will.
Yeah.
But I thought it would have been really interesting to do. where this was going to be in my Material World campaign. And again, this is like 3-4 years down the line, if even then. So there is a town in my Material World called Crown Town. And Crown Town, it's west of Prairieburg, and essentially it is this it's not like ramshackle, but it's not really a city, it's more a town, obviously, Crown Town. Buildings are made of wood, and it is actually on top of a small-ish circular mesa that's out in the wild plains. And the reason why it's called Crown Town is because when it was first erected, the only defense for the town was a spiked wooden palisade around the upper edge of the mesa. So when looking at it from afar, it literally looks like a crown.
Nice.
And that's where like a lot of adventurers gather. There's like an arena where people do fights, and they fight monsters and stuff like that. They're not fights to the death. But there was going to be this woman merchant, and she used to be an adventurer, just like all merchants, basically.
Right.
She used to be a merchant, and she's like super pretty. And it's actually a thing where if you guys got to know her, or if you hung around the town long enough, it would basically become pretty clear that she's sleeping around a lot. And she actually kind of gets in a little bit of trouble with like the women in the town. He's like, stop sleeping with my husband. God damn it.
Yeah.
Because she's flirting, but then, the guys are, going along with it. So it's still on them because they could flirt back, but just not do anything. So,
Oh, it's on both of them.
I was going to say.
Yeah, it's true. But regardless, so her whole deal is that she used to be an adventurer, and when she was out adventuring, she was wounded. And she was wounded in her stomach area. And you can see where I'm going with this. She was wounded in a way that prevented her from ever having children ever again. And so she kind of eases that pain by sleeping around. And since she can't get pregnant, there's no strings attached. And so if you guys ever got to know her well enough, she would explain her story, and then I would assume one of the characters would be like, well, you could get that healed, right?
Right.
And this is something that's happened to me in the past. I couldn't get pregnant, no.
You're right, yeah, no, I know.
Yeah.
It's just
This
one of
is
those
something
things.
that has happened to me.
Dude, same.
I know. This is something that's happened to me, and I've always found it very, very interesting. What would happen is you guys would talk to her, and she would explain her story. You'd say, why haven't you gotten that healed? And she would actually walk over to a shelf, or she'd go back into her room or something and pull out a box. And in the box is a potion. And she gestures to it and says, I already have this. This would do it. I'm just too scared to do it. I don't really know. I've thought about doing it. I've wanted it for so long. And now that I have it, now that I actually have the ability to do it, I'm too scared. I can't do it. I'm so terrified of doing it. It's happened. The thing that has happened to me is I've wanted, I don't remember exactly what it was. I think it was a game of some kind. Video game. I was looking so forward to this fucking game. I was so fucking ready to play it. I wanted it from like the day it was announced. I was hyped as fuck until the release date. I got it, and I couldn't play it for like 3 months because I'm like, what if it's not as good as I built it up to be?
Sure, yeah.
If I don't play it, it will remain the best game I've never played.
Yeah. That makes sense. Yeah.
And so again, that's such a simple thing because condensing all of that down to one word, she's scared.
Yeah.
That's it. And so I really pride myself on my ability to try to make a complex character out of a simple emotion.
Right,
Or a
yeah.
simple term or word or whatever, desire, you know? And I don't know if that's something that's uncommon or hard for people to do, but it just comes to me. For some reason, it just comes to me.
Yeah. I mean,
And
it's just...
and I don't even know if it is, but it feels like it's special. I don't know.
I don't know.
I don't fucking know if that's like a special ability or what. But I feel like it might be.
There's sort of like a character like that in my current D&D campaign. He is a 20th level adventurer who grew into an old man and sort of like, you know, the whole thing of like fear an old man in a business where men die young. So that's him. He's a 20th level rogue. And he got grew into an old man. Eventually, like, he has zero need to ever have money. But he has a hotel that he owns simply because he can interact with people in the main sort of I don't know, the main room, I guess. You check in there, like,
the lobby.
I don't know what that room's called. The lobby. Yes, thank you.
Okay. Yeah.
Just so he can interact with them all, and maybe he'll run into a few adventures, get a few stories of his own. When he's not helping customers, he's reading books. And he has gotten to the point where he's like read libraries worth of books.
Damn.
Because he is, as a character, bored. That's why he makes friends with the party. That's why he does a lot of what he does with interacting with who he has, how he interacts with them. Like, he took in an owlbear cub because he's like, this is a stupid idea, but I wonder if I can train a wild animal.
Hell yeah.
I wonder if I can train a wild animal to be an okay pet to have in a hotel.
Yeah, be like a mascot.
I've never seen this done before, but we'll find out.
Yeah.
And literally, like, he's like, if it works out, cool, and I have a hella mascot and I can rebrand, and if it doesn't work out, I can always kill it.
Yeah.
Like,
it was interesting.
What's an owlbear to a 20th? Yeah, what's an owlbear to a 20th level rogue?
Yeah. Dinner.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
We kind of got off topic here.
Yeah, we went a ways, but you know what? It's a good a time as any to do a midpoint thing, I think. So hi, hey,
hello.
Midpoint, woo! Shoutouts and shilling. So after all that, more serious.
You want
talk.
us to get back on topic? Give us some money.
God damn it, no. So, that being said, hello. We are supported by patrons. That is a thing. So I will bring up our patrons in a second here. But yes, so I will read out our lovely patrons' names, starting from the top. That is, of course, Draco Kraken up at the top. Thank you so much at tier 4. Then Mog Zero next at tier 4. Thank you as well. Slazer at tier 4. Thank you very much. Steely at tier 4. Thank you as well. And then Drake Cross at tier 3. Thank you. Chris at tier 2. Thank you. Lux at tier 2. Thank you. Frozen Spaghetti, also at tier 2. Thank you. And finally, Kill Chrono at tier 2. Thank you as well. So thanks to all of you. If you want to join our Patreon, patreon.com/tabletalkdnd. It is in the description of the VOD as well as the description of the stream right now, in fact. And you can pledge and help get us towards that dice fund of getting custom dice. And if you are at tier 2 and up, you get a free set of dice when they come out. So do it.
Or be a host of the podcast and get them anyway.
Wow. Hey, that's true. I mean, that's true. But you can't. Sorry. That's not open to the public. I'm sorry. Anyway, so that's the thing. And of course, you can donate to us in general through the chat or through on our website. There's a donate button on there that should still be working. But if you donate through the chat stuff, you can leave a message and I'll read it and all that shit. So so catch live stuff and maybe if you want to do that, you can do it. And also, I did this before and I'll do it one more time. I put a specific amount that if you go to that or higher than it, it will do a text to speech of whatever you put. And whilst I don't like doing it, it is there, and I understand that it is an incentive and that it will maybe boost the Dice Fund a bit. So mostly I'm doing this because of Dice Fund. So if you find that special number, you'll have a TTS. Wow. Neat.
Oh my god.
Oh my god. It'll read it for you, and it'll be loud in my ears probably. I don't know. But then it'll also be that funny robot voice. Wow. I made sure that it's
Start
the funny
trying at
$420.69. Anyway, no. So, again, not expecting anybody to get to it, just saying that it's there. Also, of course, the Table Talk logo, the current one, you can get it on a t-shirt and everything else over at TeePublic. And a percentage of it goes towards the artist for every purchase. So consider getting a shirt. That'd be neat. It also goes towards the Dice Fund. And last but not least, of course, we are partnered with Humble. Humble Bundle. You can go on there. You can use our link. There's a link in the description, as well as there's a chat command. You can go there and you can go and buy a thing. If you were waiting for Monster Hunter Rise, well, hey, you can get it through there and it'll help support us.
Oh boy,
that's a thing. And there's also what's more TTRPG related.
Fuck, are we gonna have to get Rise again because Aiden didn't like it on the Switch?
I'm not gonna get it again. I'm not gonna spend another $60.
Yeah, me neither.
Sorry, but
I considered getting it on PC for a half a second last night, actually, simply because I was like, what would piss Boo and Alejo and Brogan the fuck off?
Yeah, it would.
I wouldn't care. That's
me neither.
Thing. I wouldn't care.
I would get pissed because I'm like, fuck you, but I'm still not gonna do it.
Well, no, I wouldn't even. I just wouldn't care. Do whatever you want to do with your money. But also, on the Humble bundle, there are bundles that have 3D printable adventures, as well as 3D printable tabletop stuff, as well as some virtual tabletop stuff. Like, there's a bunch of good stuff here for TTRPG stuff if you want. So go check it out. Also, we, through it, support Tabletop Alliance, which a link to their website for more information about them is also in the description. So yeah, that's all that stuff. So,
Yay.
we will now move on to more of the video.
Yes.
And maybe get through it.
Yes.
Who knows?
Who the hell knows?
Who even knows?
We have only an hour and 17 minutes left. We got to do it. We have to end at exactly 12.
I see. Right. Of course.
Yes.
Of course. I didn't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, fair enough.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's get back over to here. And we'll get back to the thing. We lost so many people when we were just on our shit. I will say we are at 0.
Oof. Oof.
At least that's what it says on my stuff.
Oh,
I don't know.
okay.
If you're out there lurking, thanks. If not, if you're watching the VOD in the future, whatever. Hey, thanks.
Yeah.
I'm glad.
Oof. Big oof.
Well, hey, it's just one of those things.
If you're
I understand.
watching the VOD in the future, we're grateful to you. You're the true fans.
Well, I know Steely even donated and said, "I'll see you in the VOD side." So this is before you guys showed up. So
Yeah.
Well, I know Steely will. So hi.
Yeah. Yeah. He's always VOD gang.
That's true.
Hi, Steely.
These days, unfortunately, he said that he was a bit busy. This,
Yeah, just holidays and shit.
Yeah. Anyway, let's continue.
Things clear up for you soon, Steely.
Yeah.
You betray him or her in the gameplay. Would they let it slide? Would they know that it's only roleplay if you're already kind of...
I would fucking hope so.
Anyway, let's continue.
Exactly.
Stop pausing it.
Well, so no, I know. It's just one of
I
those
know.
things of like, are you emotionally mature enough to understand what is roleplay and what is not in
sure
the
hope
sense of a
so.
relationship? I would fucking hope so.
Yeah.
All right, that's all I have to say.
Okay.
putting your own emotions in those made-up characters. I've seen multiple situations in which this created toxic situations, in which people didn't feel comfortable and even exited the whole campaigns, just quit it because they thought that they are just not in a safe environment anymore. Just because they thought that the character is them to some point, to some extent. My personal rule of thumb when I create a new character is to create a mix in between two factors. One, a factor of maybe my personality or something that is a part of my personality that I can empathize with. So that's
There
the
you
first
go.
factor that I put in them, so something that I can personally kind of identify myself with so it's easier to roleplay. And second factor is the factor of me observing other people in real life and seeing some features which are not my own. So for example, I take a character who has the same approach, let's say, to relationships as I have, or to rules of the world, politics, or anything like that than I am, but then I'm adding something that I observe from other people that I maybe even very much dislike, maybe it's something that I would judge in real life a lot. Like for example, for the character I was role-playing for the last year, I was actually doing a research on the narcissistic personality disorder. And I know some people in real life with this disorder, and I know how difficult they are to mingle with. And there are a lot of things about these people that tilt me a lot, and I put that into my roleplay. I combine some of my own features with the features of people that maybe I don't really like to hang out with. And this way, I created a character who I can empathize with, but also I don't wish them very well. And when bad things happen to him, when my poor Vincent got blood-handed and shunned away from the Camarilla and everyone in the city hates him right now, you know, I didn't feel bad. Maybe a little, because I also used to role-playing this piece of shit. But in general, I felt he deserves that. It wasn't like, why would you do this to me? I mean, my character...
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, that's
play whatever
weird.
character you want. Just I don't know if I want to wish bad things on my character and think that they deserve them. That just feels weird to me.
I mean, why would you want to play as a character that you hate?
That you just don't like, and that you're like, oh, I'm glad bad things are happening to them. Like,
Yeah.
I play as a character who reminds me of my ex-husband, so I can walk into walls.
Yeah, like,
right, like,
are you not here to have fun?
Like,
yeah,
unironically.
right, yeah, like, I understand. Okay, again, just because it's the setting is vampire, the setting is the world of darkness. Again, It doesn't mean that the tone itself is always going to be, oh, it's fucking miserable. I hope that nothing good happens to my character. Like, that's weird. That's just strange. Ultimately, I just want to have a good time playing vampire, and I don't need to worry about somebody, like, doing something to my character and me getting upset about it, right? Unless they are quite... like, I can get upset at a fantasy character, sure, but, like... I also recognize that that fantasy character is a projection that is being put into my mind by my storyteller, right?
What do you mean Dio isn't real?
Right? Like,
he fucking kicked Danny. He killed him. That's real. No.
That's real to me.
So being happy that something bad happened to your character is the exact same logic of I am mad because someone did something bad to my character.
Exactly.
Same thing.
Yeah.
Exactly. So this is very strange.
I've seen that happening a lot, so that's why self-inserts are not the greatest. As much as you want to put your personal feelings on the line in role-playing like you would watch a good movie, and tears go down your cheeks because something really emotional happens. You do not want to cry because you feel hurt yourself. You don't want to feel angry at other players or a storyteller because it feels like they hurt you, not the character. 4. Embrace your failures. That is very much connected to the previous point as well. Vampire the Masquerade is a game in which a lot of bad things can happen. It's a part of World of Darkness, and World of Darkness is not in general a happy place. And when you roll them dice, and especially when you're hungry, which does happen often, you may end up with bestial failures or messy criticals, both of them putting you quite in trouble. And as much as it might be tempting to always use your willpower to re-roll these poor rolls, I would advise you to actually use some of these moments to roleplay the hell out of it. Because sometimes the best moments in campaigns happen when you fail.
That's just in general.
Yeah.
Just in general, yes, agreed, 100%. The like in my vampire campaign, the accidental killings have led to inter-party like disagreements and just like views on each other being completely changed because of how they deal with the aftermath, and like their own like looking at themselves and going, am I really okay with what I am and what I'm doing? You know, it becomes this introspective kind of thing, and it's very interesting. So yeah, do whatever the fuck, it's great, and fail it and then go, uh-oh,
like, oh
yikes,
shit.
It's great.
Oops, oopsie whoopsie, I did.
Hey,
gentlemen, what is known as a fucky wucky.
hey, Mr. DM, Mr. Vampire DM.
Yeah.
I rolled.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
It didn't work.
Okay.
Can I roll again so that it does?
No.
Well, fuck you then.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah. Okay. Fair enough. See ya.
Yep.
Actually, no. I'd be like, well, you could, but you probably could fucking destroy the whatever you're doing. Anyway.
Yeah.
When you put their eyes on you, that's when you feel that the World of Darkness is true, that you reach the essence of the system. Call me a masochist, but I feel like I remember and memorize better the moments in which my characters fail than when they succeed a lot. I feel
You're
like
masochist.
I was gonna say this wouldn't make me call you a masochist. What you said before would make me call you a masochist. I love to see my character suffer because he's a piece of shit and I play him all the time.
Yeah,
like,
that's
okay.
masochist. I mean, no, that's sadist.
It's sadism. Sorry.
Yeah,
yes. You're right.
Yes.
You're right.
I will call you a masochist simply because you asked to be called one.
True.
However, speaking personally, the scenes I remember are when my character gets nothing done and is in fact kind of being a shitter. But manages to pull some fucky wucky bullshit over. So, for instance, Alejo, you may remember Oh, not Aldonis. What was his name? The author.
Yes, I remember the Gilderoy
the-
Lockhart type.
Yes, the Gilderoy Lockhart-esque character that couldn't do shit and
Yeah.
was like, I'll repair your motorcycle for you. I totally know how to do that. And then shepherded everyone out of the barn. And then did some jumping jacks and like some push-ups to get himself slightly winded.
Yeah.
Prestidigitationed the motorcycle so it looked like it was fixed. Took some water from his canteen, daubed it on his brow so it looked like he was sweating, and then took off like his shirt, opened up the door, and was like breathing heavy, and was like,
That's right.
I think I got it.
That's right. It was really funny.
I accomplished nothing and was an absolute shitter.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. I remember both. So, and everything in between sometimes. Like, it really depends on what I choose to remember and what really sticks with me. But, like, yeah, everything, whatever. You're a masochist, I guess.
Like the face just taste different in the World of Darkness than they would taste, for example, in D&D. When I played D&D, it was all about, let's try to get that success. And when I didn't get a success, I was like, oh no. While World of Darkness is like, oh, messy critical. Oh my god, this is exciting.
Well, I mean, okay, so...
Well, messy critical doesn't seem like it's a failure outright.
It is a success, but at what cost? Like,
yeah, so you still did it. It's just...
Yeah, exactly.
You know...
Like, and the other thing that I would say is, hey, play different games of D&D.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, you can get this stuff to happen of, like, I don't know about you, but sometimes I'm like, oh, I got a fucking 1. That's great, you know?
Yeah.
Like, it's your mindset, and you, I guess, just didn't feel that way during D&D, and that's totally fine. You know? It's just try to play D&D a little differently, I guess. I don't know. So
I mean, it's the same thing as when Matt Mercer was talking about a character that sucks. He's like talking about a character with the absolute minimum required minimum that they could get in a stat, and he's like, that shit is a gift.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, we covered that video. That's right.
Yeah, we did. And it's literally just because it can be interesting as from a storytelling aspect. It doesn't make you a masochist.
Exactly.
It just means you're excited to see how your DM develops the story.
Exactly.
I'll be right back. I'm going to use the restroom, but keep
All
going.
right, have fun.
Am I going to breach the masquerade? Am I going to be put in front of the prince? And am I going to suffer? Again, call me a masochist, but I feel like failures are a vital part of the World of Darkness, and suffering of your characters shall...
So I was with you with like, oh, am I gonna break the masquerade? Like I was with you, dog.
Yeah.
And then you said that last sentence, which is, am I going to suffer? Like, all right, fucking calm down there, darkness.
Exactly. Like it is taking it a little far.
that part is like, for anyone who has watched Konosuba, very much reminds me of darkness.
Okay.
be a part of it as well. It's not the world of friendship and magic. That would be My Little Pony. You are a vampire and your existence mostly sucks. Sometimes it doesn't, but usually it does. Number 5. Think outside the box, but don't be afraid of stereotypes. One of the most memorable characters I've ever played with were the ones that were...
So before we get too far, yes, stereotypes are there and they should be used, and you shouldn't be afraid of them. It's
how so?
In the sense of, just because a stereotype is a thing and it is being used, doesn't mean that it is bad. Because a lot of the time people equate stereotype with cliche. Because cliche is something that is done so much that it is that it is like boring or monotonous or annoying even to such a degree, but a stereotype can exist and is just a common, well, let me, because I don't know the exact definition of stereotype. I know what it is, but I don't know how to explain it. Okay. A widely held but fixed and oversimplified image or idea of a particular type of person or thing. So, yeah, it's literally just, oh, you are the strong fighter, Like, that's a stereotype. Your strength is like 18 and you're a fighter. So you're very strong. Nice, Like, that's not bad. You can just, you can just be that, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's the cliche of, I'm a fighter, but I'm very incompetent in every situation except for fighting. And, like, it just continues to be that way throughout the entire campaign, where he just keeps trying to fuck up everything.
Yeah. I am a fighter, not a talker. Ha ha ha.
Exactly.
Guys,
why are you not
laugh.
laughing? Yeah. After the 10th time, it's like, so like that becomes a cliche, and that's annoying and just something that you want to avoid. Whereas a stereotype, excuse me, I'm starting to lose my voice. A stereotype can have depth. It can be a strong fighter, but even so, they have this, they really like bird watching. Okay, and they like the serenity that comes with going into a field, taking out a spyglass and watching the birds in the trees, and really like journals them and like studies them and knows everything about birds, but is like this big beefy strong guy.
The birds.
Oh yeah, that is a thing, isn't it? Well, I've created a stereotype in a stereotype. There you go. But yeah, so like, it's not something that you should steer away from necessarily. You can be original with a stereotype. Like, there's no reason why you can't.
Outside of the box. For example, ugly toreadors, or there was this beautiful ministry character who was a granny that smelled of good, freshly baked cake. I feel like when you come up with a new character concept, it is very often a nice thing to think outside of the box. Of course, sires usually do have their taste when it comes to picking their childer, but a lot of embraces happen on a whim. A lot of embraces happen out of accident. So why not be a corporate rat turned gangrel? Or why not be a very calm Christian Catholic girl who turns into Bruja? There's a lot of potential in what can be made when you think outside of the box, and it creates memorable
Sorry, no, actually, never mind.
Characters, but on the other side, you shouldn't be afraid of the stereotypes. Again, it's not about your sheet. You may create the very literal Bruja that you saw somewhere on the World of Darkness artwork. A punk riding motorcycles and with anarchy signs everywhere. And you even name her Damsel because you played Bloodlines and you feel like it's going to be fun. This doesn't define your roleplay. You may take this sheet of Damsel the Bruja and you may make this into the most interesting roleplay-wise character possible. Because even playing with stereotypes can be fun.
It's not a stereotype, that's just that's like a whole character that you've just taken and it's just something else. Which I'm going, good, I'm glad you're doing something original with that character, I guess, but why name it Damsel then?
Yeah.
It's the whole Tulip thing again.
Yeah, I made Boris, whose art is, I've described it multiple times as literally just look up the art of a measle.
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
But I would dare go on a limb and say I've made Boris into something far beyond
a mere measle.
What's in the sort of base material.
Yeah, I'd say so. Yeah. So I agree, think outside the box, but like but also that stereotypes are fine, but also it's just like, I don't know, originality can come from whatever.
play with people who play the multiple personality disorder Malkavians well, which is rare, I admit, but these people do exist. Number 6, do not metagame. Oh, what are you talking about, Dodster? I'm never metagaming. Never! I mean, you may not even know that you're doing that. Because, let's think about it. You studied all those Vampire the Masquerade books forever. You're a huge fan of the system. And then the new campaign starts and you try to play a fledgling. Freshly embraced vampire who knows something more or less from your sire because your sire didn't abandon you. Wow. And you are thrown into the world of darkness and suddenly you know everything about it. Oh, he's a Tremere. I shouldn't trust him. Oh, he's loony. He must be a Malkavian. Oh, Camarilla. Okay, Anarchs. Yeah, totally understand all of these things. All of these.
Well, I wouldn't understand how you wouldn't understand that you are metagaming in this way because you've made it clear that you're a character that doesn't know this shit, but sure.
Yeah.
Intricacies of the world of darkness, they make perfect sense to the fledgling me. Not really. Your character wouldn't know these things, and as much as it might be logical for you, and you may try to roleplay to your best extent this way, a lot of these things leak from time to time. That's why I really love how Erika Ishii was playing in LA by Night, and how she actually didn't read the whole book and everything beforehand so she can play a fledgling convincingly. And she was really doing it amazingly.
So you're telling me that I shouldn't read my core rulebook if I want to play?
No, I agree with her on this. If it is your first time and like this is a very niche scenario, but like if you are playing a fledgling and it happens to be your first time, take advantage of your ignorance of the system. And learn the core rules necessary to know how play is done.
Okay.
But like, maybe don't go in and read all about what each faction is and know every single faction.
Yeah. So on that, I'll agree that it can be cool and it can make it so that you're more naturally your character if you're in that way. My other retort, and a retort that we've had beforehand that we've done with metagaming specifically, is just it's not that hard to not metagame. Like we've talked about it before, where you can just kind of put that stuff to the side and don't act upon it.
Where you're in sort of the scenario where that can be cool, but like I mean.
Like
it should be done anyway, but
right, exactly. I just like it's one of those things of like, oh, like, and I don't know who she's talking about, so I don't know if this person has ever played Vampire before, right? If they have, then they also just didn't metagame. If they hadn't, then okay, then it was more natural. But even so, I could play a fledgling and just like the way that you play somebody that doesn't know anything is that you ask questions. Like that's the simplest thing, and then you can start unlocking the knowledge that you already know.
Or literally what I do, which is anytime I see the party artificers, for instance, say make something new, or the warlock casts a new spell, like my paladin goes, yo, that's what the fuck was that?
Yeah.
Like, and he marks out over it.
Yeah. Like it's super easy to just not metagame and just make it in-game a reason that you now know something. It's super fucking simple.
You of course have this chance because you've already read the books, so it might be very difficult for you to play a fledgling, but just try to empathize and imagine the world from a different perspective. If you need to, maybe ask someone who has absolutely no knowledge about the system how they would act in this situation. How would they react to knowing that there's a vampire government, that vampires actually exist? I think the most common case of metagaming...
Yeah, but in your scenario of don't read the rule book, be ignorant still on purpose.
Exactly.
You're going to ruin that for your friend.
Ooh, and also I would say I don't need to ask somebody else how they would react knowing now that there is a vampire government that exists that you didn't know about before.
You should be
I can look
concerned
at
how your character reacts.
so if you're trying to base it off of somebody that has no knowledge, I can base that off of me. Because I don't fucking think there's a vampire government that is secretly controlling everything. How the fuck would I react?
Yeah.
You know, and then I can kind of transpose whatever elements.
There is a what government?
Yeah, exactly. Then I can transpose whatever elements would really work for my character. But then I would also go, well, how does my character view the? And so you just go from there. Like it just requires a little bit of thought. That's all.
In general, I would recommend being hesitant as an experienced role player to ask an inexperienced role player how what you should do. Exceptions exist, of course.
Well, if it's for research purposes, I guess.
Yeah, I trust your. I at least trust your ability as an experienced role player to judge the best thing to do for yourself.
Yeah.
Thoughts.
Yeah.
Is perceiving other characters like you know their clans even when they didn't tell you. Even the most experienced vampires in the world of darkness wouldn't really cast these assumptions, I would say. Or they would if they're superstitious and stupid and they very easily base on the image and they know that they failed this and had a lot of mistakes in the past, but they still do it. You know, role-playing a stupid vampire is also a very fun thing to do. But in general, even if you saw...
So that's just a whole different thing. But sure.
Yeah.
Anyway.
That would come down more to how does your storyteller like demonstrate these differences in the world.
Yeah.
Like in some of these some DMs may have it so that stereotypes exist for a good reason in your world, and some may not.
Exactly.
That just because your character has beliefs of a certain thing doesn't make them stupid.
Right. Well, no, so what I assume is she's saying is just like you can also play as a stupid character, right? Like I think that's just a total, and like that's why I said I think that's just a totally different thing, which is completely off track of metagaming. I don't understand. I don't get it. Why is it here?
Yeah.
The sheets of these people before, try to roleplay like you didn't and like you don't really know what's behind the veil. Number 7, remember about your humanity. This is a very big aspect of V5, but it's also something that may be useful for you if you play the previous editions. The lower your humanity, the lower your empathy, the less you feel anything when you see death, when you see people hurt, when you see people who are sick, poor, when you see injustice in this world. You are just dulled. The lower your humanity, the more your personal urges start to cloud your view, and it is only about you. You have a tunnel vision. Your victim, the blood, the things that you need to get that blood, the things that you need to be successful, to survive, and other things, screw them. They don't matter anymore.
This is entirely something that I would say is useful. Yes, humanity is a big part of being a vampire. Like you... Like, if you ever get high humanity, and that's a big if, unless you're a thin blood, maybe, like thin bloods start with higher humanity base, but
nobody wants to play as a thin blood.
No, God, well, I kind of do just because it's interesting, right? But anyway, so, my whole thing is like, you will rarely ever get humanity. And so you will probably just be losing it steadily. And then once you get to a certain point, well, you lose yourself, obviously. But you know, at a certain point, I would also understand it being a little more difficult to roleplay that, because empathy, kind of hard to not have empathy in certain situations, right? personally, I guess. I know it's not the same for everyone, but like, it also, I wonder if it could be overplayed in such a way as well, because getting to a lower like empathy level, you might, I don't know, it's one of those things that's kind of a hard thing for me to do, because it's like, how far is humanity 3 as opposed to humanity 4, right? In terms of like how and like it gives you a basic description in the book that you can kind of go off. Like I could probably actually find it real quick. I say real quick as I don't remember what page humanity is fucking on. Well, anyway, it's in there somewhere. I won't take up too much time looking for it, but there are subtle things that you could probably do. Probably more of a let's say, usually you start at like humanity 5, which is like base, right? And so you go, okay, then you go down humanity 4, and then maybe occasionally you are starting to like find yourself like more smiling as you're starting to like pummel down people or something, just to like thinking more about the fact that you'll get the job done and actually get paid for it, instead of thinking about what you're doing during the job, I guess, and however you can really express that in such a way. Anyway, yeah, humanity's cool.
You can say more edgy when you're lower on humanity, but there is something to it. A humanity 8 vampire, they would be moved by people getting hurt. They would be moved by someone crying, they would be moved by someone dying. The world would be a harder place to live for a vampire of humanity 8, for sure. Because it is so much easier just to not feel, you know? I know it's a dark thing to say. It's the world of darkness, okay? Everything here is dark and gothic, and we're all sad and we're dead on top of it. Then there's also the changes in humanity, which is especially interesting when your humanity raises. When you manage to get your humanity higher, your character may not feel very good about that. And I feel that's a very interesting way to roleplay this, because suddenly you feel more. Suddenly the remorse is hitting you, the guilt is hitting you. And you may think to yourself that the world was easier when you felt less, which may in the end maybe lead you to committing bad deeds and getting closer to being a white. Or maybe you just come to terms with the sad reality that if you want to retain your humanity and if you want to keep in touch with it, it's going to hurt. This also works with point 8. Remember about your physical state. And this is very often forgotten, especially when we talk about sexual endeavors. V5 is very explicit about what you can and what you cannot do when it comes to boom chicka wow wow. Your humanity 8, you can feel pleasure. Humanity 7 and below, you do not feel physical pleasure whatsoever from.
But you can fake it.
Yes.
Sexual intercourse. So when I see people role-playing vampires on Humanity 6 that openly want to bang other characters and try to get there not because of some infernal plan that they want to have power, they want to have control over them, which could push them into doing that. No, they're like, you're so hot, man, I just wanna go.
I suppose my question is, does that not also still exist even if you're not humanity 8 or 7? I literally opened up to the humanity track, by the way. Like, coincidentally, this time. 236, page 236, for anybody out there who has the book.
So, and the thing is too, is the reason why human sexuality well, I wouldn't say the reason why it exists. I would say, one of the influences of human sexuality is mentally where you're at.
Yeah.
Like, if you mentally expect a desire of sex to be expected of you, you will desire sex.
Yes, exactly.
And there is It's fascinating, actually, the mentality behind human sexuality.
I imagine. I wouldn't know.
I've never had sex in my life.
Virgins.
So I think there can be a lot of reasons at play
Yeah.
into why a character would want to sleep with an NPC or even another character.
Yeah.
And moreover, I think that overly concerning yourself with the sexuality of another character is not only a waste of time but kind of cringe.
Yeah, I would say so. Cause like, yeah, the only difference is you can feel it. In which case, like, sure, yeah, but what if you're like you remember it, like you remember how it felt, and you're trying to chase that still? Like,
Yeah.
it's so
or maybe the fact that you can't feel anything from it is actually an insecurity of yours.
Exactly.
And you're trying to cover up for that by going so far in the other direction.
And like, I understand your example is somebody just saying, "Ooh, it's just they're so hot," and it's like, well, again, what's the issue here?
Yeah,
like,
I mean,
they're still able to do it. They just have to make a check. That's it.
Yeah.
Maybe it's oh well, that individual's hot. If I like manage to sleep with them, then it reflects well upon me.
Exactly.
It means I am hot.
It means I'm
and
hot.
I am desirable, and we all have a need to feel desired.
And like, regardless of if that's their reason or not, like that could be just a unknown mental thing that they have, you know, like subconscious. Sorry, that's the word.
Yeah, and even if, like, in this scenario, don't get me wrong, I am sure that it is just a very simple, oh, this character's hot, and like they're not taking that like errata into account.
Yeah.
They're
errata.
Heyo. I am sure that yes, 90% of the time that is 100% the case. However, you can't just wholesale ignore that.
Yeah. And
or you can't wholesale ignore the 10%, I should specify.
Right. And the other thing is, remember, vampires are trying to stay human.
Yeah.
Like that's just the thing. Like,
yeah,
they could still be doing this because, again, they're still trying to be that human that they were before.
Yeah.
They were sleeping around all the time. I don't know, fucking whatever. But
yeah.
So just let them fucking play. Okay? You said before that it wasn't gatekeeping or anything, but this feels weird. Like, it's weird that you would go, no, they're at humanity 7 or below. They shouldn't be having sex for sex sake.
It doesn't feel like gatekeeping.
No.
So much as like fence watching.
Yeah, exactly.
Fence peeking.
Fence peeking.
Fence peeking.
I love it. Yes.
Yeah.
You are the neighbor from Home Improvement.
Yeah.
Looking over the fence.
It's like, stop owning.
I hear what you're doing over there.
Stop fucking. Stop that. No. Don't make me get the hose.
You ever been halfway through and then you get a text?
There you go.
It's like, shit, fuck, I gotta answer this. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
You don't feel these things, okay? This doesn't work. I've been in many discussions about that. I had to talk about the birds and the bees with many players.
You know, you probably do still, and
nah, it's not worth it.
Yeah.
You know, okay, so maybe it's just because I don't understand this system well because I've not played this system. But there's how would I phrase this? As it's not like you're totally numb.
Yeah,
yes?
Exactly.
So
Well,
you can probably still feel pain.
So, yes.
Which that would probably manifest in things taking a more violent turn for you.
Could, yeah.
Yeah. Not to mention, if you're, again, World of Darkness, not exactly a happy place. Say you are, a lot, this is less about, the sexual encounters are far less about actual, like, physical pleasure. They're more about, like, control.
Yeah.
And other sorts of,
before.
like, yeah. And, like, effectively, like, the hardcore, like, 50 Shades of Grey bullshit.
Yeah.
Because if you can't feel physical pleasure from sex, but you could probably still feel pleasure from, like, domination and shit. Domination, control, sadism, or masochism.
There's a bunch there's absolutely that, but like if this is literally just a problem with people that are just playing vampires that aren't at a proper humanity, like playing them as if they still enjoy sex, it's like again, like that's just so weird. Why do you die on this hill? I don't understand.
This is such a minute issue.
Yeah, it's a non-issue.
This is not worth devoting an entire point.
Right.
This is very ancillary and not really worth devoting this much attention.
If we want to be proper vampires or something, like even then I would say no, they still do it. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Like,
and I mean, hell, who's to say vampires can't do it as like a ritual or something?
Well, this is the thing. I think because she said like it's not about them doing anything other than, just doing it for its sake, right?
My bad.
So, no, you're good. It's just one of those things of like, so what's the issue? Like I'm just wondering, like, is this an issue with role playing? No.
And like, Alejo, what was the term that you used for like one pip, the not charges,
the retainer,
retainers.
Yeah.
Maybe the person that you're giving weekly dick appointments to is a retainer of yours.
Yeah. Weekly vitamin D injections.
Yes.
Yeah. And this is just how you go about doing that.
Yeah.
Maintaining your retainer.
Yeah. Could be.
I've played with, and it is always something that's maybe a little bit embarrassing for at least one of the sides, but it's something that needs to be addressed.
I'd be embarrassed listening to you.
Wouldn't feel that in your position as a vampire. You need to remember about physicality of a vampire. You are a corpse. And this also means that you need to be aware of things like blush of life in public places. Like, when you do not use blush of life, you may use makeup, sure, but when someone touches you, a mortal gets closer to you, you get some kind of a close physical interaction.
This is true.
What is blush of life?
So blush of life is a thing that anyone can do as a vampire. Basically you make a rouse check, which is just you roll a die. If you get six up, a d10, sorry, you roll a d10, and if you get a 6 up, you pass. If you get less than that, you fail, but you don't fail, right? You still get the blush to happen, you just get more hungry.
Okay, but what is the blush of life?
I was getting to that.
Okay.
So basically, it makes it so that you have warmth in your body. You are, you will pass a very basic medical exam, right? Nothing that's very thorough. So you will appear alive, but very like sickly. Usually,
I see. So it's a way to pass as a human.
Yes, it is a way to disguise yourself in that way. And if you have a high humanity, it lets you look like better. Like you don't look sickly. Like you look okay. But yeah, it's mostly used just to pass off yourself as a human. And this is the best part about it, is you can do it anytime, any day, turn it on, and then leave it on until you go to bed. So you don't even have to worry about it until the next day.
Nice.
The only thing you worry about is if you turn it off or if you get hungry from it.
Feels very much off with you. Not even mentioning things like the need of breathing and blinking or anything like that, because I think it's a little bit more of a high difficulty roleplay if you want to include all of these things and think about all of these things. But if you want to have my tip about this, I would say that when you're a fledgling, when you're a freshly created vampire, you would still have these tics, you would still do some things just because you were used to do this for all your life. So you would still take a deep breath or sigh in some moments of the conversation. I would say that the older you are, and the more closer to Ancile level you are, for example, the more dead you would be, because you grew used to the dead body, and that's who you are right now. So as an elder vampire,
or you get up to
better
that
at
point,
mimicking it.
yeah, and you continue to do these things because you are trying to blend the fuck in.
Yeah. Not to mention, like, I don't know about you, but I don't really sigh as a way to breathe.
No, I mean, I just sigh on occasion, you know?
Yeah,
Like,
right? Like,
yeah.
I kind of like sigh groan.
Yeah,
you know?
Exactly.
I don't think I would ever lose that if I was dead.
Yeah,
Because that's
more
not really a breathing thing.
Well,
That's
so
more
it
an
is.
emotional thing.
So it is a exhaling of breath, right? And usually you don't have any if you're dead. But
Wait, so you can't?
So I wouldn't go that far, because like it doesn't fucking matter that much, right?
Yeah.
It's ancillary at that point. If you're doing a blush of life, I'd be like, yeah, you're fucking breathing and stuff. Even if you don't, I'm not gonna make you go, oh, you're not breathing right now, you know, like, because I'd be like, what? Why does that matter in this moment when you're on the street, you know? Like, if you're in a situation where it's like you're trying to blend in and shit, and you haven't used Breath of Life, and you're just like, or Blush of Life, and you're just like, I'm just gonna try to go in, and I'll be like, okay, now we have to make sure that you understand what you're doing, you know? So, like, but... So it's just like, and I understand if you want to go super realistic, but also, like, I don't want to have to look to my storyteller and go, I'm breathing right now. I blinked. You know? Like, it becomes a little tedious at a certain level.
I think it would be fun to include in your roleplay the fact that simple things that humans do, like clearing your throat during the conversation, or sighing, or yawning, are things that come to you unnaturally. And when you do them, they don't really feel as real as they would if a fledgling would do that.
Sure. No, so that it would be interesting to see somebody do that. I will agree with you.
9, the hunger and the beast are always there. I think it's a little bit more self-explanatory than the others, but in general you should be aware of the fact what being a vampire is. And the very core of being a vampire is your hunger. It is always there. And you cannot ignore it, really. The higher your hunger, the less you would be able to think about anything else. If you want to get a good glimpse on how it will work, I don't actually recommend not eating, but you've been hungry in your life for sure, right? Imagine you ordered a pizza and 2 hours have passed, your pizza is still not there. And you're waiting and waiting and you're calling them, but they say, yeah, the driver's on their way. But the pizza is still not there. You feel grumbling in your stomach, you're nervous. If someone would talk to you in that moment, there's a much easier way of tilting you, of starting an argument, because you're just not yourself when you're hungry. And imagine that, but put it in the world of darkness, where this hunger is much stronger. It has a grip on you, and not only on your stomach, as it would, but on your whole existence. It spreads around your body. You feel like you're going to die if you are not going to get that last freaking drop. And if you imagine that, I think it's going to be easier to roleplay being hungry with other characters. I feel like someone with 4 dots of hunger going on wouldn't have time or mind to talk about trivialities with another character. Your gay girlfriend comes.
Yeah, so overall, just for all this whole point, yes.
Yes.
Hunger is very, very much something that you should pay attention to, because if you get too hungry, fucking like at 4 to 5, you can get frenzies to happen just from somebody nosebleeding. Like you're on edge.
Don't watch any anime.
Yeah, you watch an anime and you're just like, you know. But yeah, so pay attention.
I gotta
to it,
drink the TV.
But the other thing that I would say is, you could, and I hope she goes to it, but like you could play a fledgling and not fucking know, and then learn it through that. Even you know, like it'd be interesting.
To you and is like, dude, like I don't really feel like good today because the prince yelled at me and the baron hates me, and you'll be just like food. So yeah, think about hunger not only as the dots on your sheet, but also as something that you need to roleplay somehow. And finally we get to number 10, the time. Roleplay the time well, because the time is different for vampires. And that's true. Not only do they have more time in general, of course, but they also have less time. And let me just explain very quickly what it means. Let's imagine it's a beautiful summer night. It's 9 p.m. and the sun has just barely went below the horizon. You wake up 2 hours after sunset, you go with your vampiric life, and then the dawn happens at 5 a.m. and you freaking fall asleep automatically 2 hours before that. And of course it might be 1 hour, depending on your humanity, depending on whether you're a Finbot or not. But the night is short. Not in all places in the world, of course, but in most places of the world and in the most time of the year, night for vampires is shorter than a day. And in that time, you have to do a lot of things, especially finding your own victim, securing the fact that you won't be seen, getting your blood, not breaking the masquerade and going back home.
The way that I take care of this is I tell people what time it is. And when people ask what time it is, I tell them what time it is. And I keep track personally of what time it is, because it is much more important in this than it is in a lot of other games that I play.
Yeah, because now the night and the day actually have a mechanical
exactly
thing.
If you are out in the day, you are dead. I will totally, if you have a watch on and you can check it occasionally, and like I won't even say, like, sometimes if somebody just has a watch, I'll just be like, yeah, so I mean, you know, at the moment it's like 11. You know, you still got a while. You're fine. Yeah. Or, like, you know, it becomes 3 a.m. and it's like, well, you should probably go home. It's getting a little late. A little late.
Early.
Yeah. But, you know, and so it's just, it's one of those things where it's a lot. I think that being a useful timekeeper for your players as a storyteller is something that is very helpful and makes it so the game runs much more smoothly. And also, since you're the storyteller, you can bend time a little bit on occasion, you know? Yeah. This thing took maybe an hour, maybe 2 hours, maybe an hour and a half. Who knows, really? The night's still young. We all want to be in it. It's fine.
To find shelter before the sun rises again. These things take time, okay? If you think about it, when you live in the you may have to go to the club and still do this mingling and try to get someone to the bathroom. This takes time. When you live in the rural area, finding a person in general might be a problem. There's a lot of factors to it that make the nights short. So I would say that there is some sort of urgency about being a vampire. But then again, when you are getting older and when you spend 200, 300 years on this earth, the time slows down in general. You already know more or less how to feed. So it starts to be an every night thing after all this time. It's just, you know, another duty that you just gotta do. And the urgency and the speed of life of the youngsters may not be fully understood for you. You may not get why do they hurry everywhere? Why do they need your answer right now? Can't you answer them tomorrow? It's not like they don't have eternity in front of them. So I feel like time...
That is actually something that is something that I should kind of implement myself with older vampires, where there's just like, dude, You got
Oh,
all
no.
the time in the world, you know? Like, yeah, exactly. It's just like,
You know, the word rural is really hard to say.
yeah, you know, just,
Um,
just starts going on and on and on about
Yeah.
that, you know?
You can think of the older vampires kind of like elves.
Yeah.
If you want to take elves in that way, where they're
Sure.
like, we are, you know, it's basically the elves from like Lord of the Rings, where
Yes.
they're immortal until the rings started to fuck everything up.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's just one of those things that I should really think about more, because having that kind of dichotomy of somebody who's like, dude, calm down, where the other ones are like, dude, I need to know now, you know, the night's almost over, and you're just like, yeah, there'll be another one.
Yeah.
You know, like,
So
that's
now,
so interesting to me.
is vampire, so okay,
Mm.
if you are a vampire in Vampire,
Yes.
can you be awake during the day at all?
So yes, you can.
Okay.
It is extremely taxing.
Okay. So,
Um,
like, for example, say you're a vampire and
Yes.
you live in a building,
Okay.
and that
Very
building is 100, and this just for hypothetical
Mhm.
sake, this building is 100% closed off from all sunlight.
Very lucky.
Yeah, right.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So it is 100% closed off from all sunlight.
Mm-hmm.
Would that still be taxing to just be awake?
Yes, that's the thing.
Okay.
It's a biological thing, really.
Gotcha.
In a way. Yeah.
So what you're telling me then is humans are superior because we can be awake in the day and the night.
Yes, I am actually 100%. Being a vampire is hard. Half the
And you gotta
time,
count rice?
Yes,
Fuck that.
dude. Legitimately,
Is that a thing?
Legitimately, you can take a flaw that is that. Yes.
Hell yeah.
And dude. Okay, I have to tell this now. So in my game, one of my friends took that, and I had them go to a casino.
Oh, Jesus.
And so they went into the casino, and I had them roll because there were a bunch of chips on a table.
Oh.
And I was like, dude, there are a lot of chips there. You need to count them. And he was like, oh no. And I was like, yes, because it's so fun. I love that flaw so much, because it's not even like it's not even technically an actual thing. It's a psychological thing for vampires.
Yeah.
Which is
It's
so
weird.
interesting. Well, no, so this is the thing. It might not even be like because they're a vampire. It's because they believe that that's a thing in their blood, right?
Right.
It's so
yeah.
interesting.
Because it's that power of belief thing.
Yes, exactly. And so I had him start counting, and then this other guy who was literally playing at the table was like, "What the fuck are you doing?" And he had to be dragged away from all the chips and stuff.
Like, I'm just counting them. I'm not taking them.
It was so good. I was so
bet.
happy.
That's great.
Yeah, I like using that in a fun kind of way, because
hell
you're
yeah.
not gonna find a bag of rice all the time. How are you gonna implement that ever? You know?
Yeah.
So you gotta find, like, if there was like some kids playing marbles somewhere, you know, at night for some reason.
Yeah, of course.
You know, but like
Yeah.
you find a bag of marbles and it's like, oh, you know, and they start counting 1, 2, 3, and I'm just like, it's oh man, it's just great. I love it.
That's awesome.
In general is perceived differently by vampires, and it's very useful to also include that in your roleplay, because the perception of time in general is something that defines us. We very often mention time in our everyday conversations, even if we don't realize that. What are you doing in the evening? When did you wake up? Oh, the morning was horrible. Oh my god, it's already midday, I gotta make myself a coffee. The clock steers our lives. It works differently for a vampire, so it would definitely have some reflection in how they act, how they talk, and what decisions they make. I hope these points were useful. Again, these are just the guidelines that you may or may not use in your personal roleplay. Let me know if you disagree with some of them, if you would say word something differently. Maybe you play in a totally different way, or maybe you have other advices on how to roleplay your vampire better. I would love to read more about that in the comments, and remember guys, don't get lost in the night. See you in another one. Goodbye.
Okay.
So I'm gonna say this right now because I don't think it was gonna come up, and I need to get this off my chest. I can't tell how fucking tall this person is. I can't tell.
It's because of position of camera and all that.
Yeah, it's the position of the camera and the chair.
Yeah.
Because like the back of the chair goes like up above her head, or slightly, and like I can't fucking tell.
Right.
And it's so frustrating. But other than that, you know.
That's fair. That's fine. Overall, I'd give it a C. It's fine.
Okay. That's not a passing grade.
It's passing. Yeah, it is.
Oh, it is? Oh, okay.
In college, it is.
Oh, okay. Dude, I haven't been to school in a long time.
That's fair.
I would give it a C+, which is a passing grade if it is like if you're studying, say, no, if it is essential.
Oh, yeah, true.
For instance, in chemistry, you need a C+ in all your chemistry classes.
Yeah.
I would give it a passing grade, but not a letter of recommendation.
Yeah, yeah. I like it. There's just a few things in there, and we talked about them. It's just like I don't understand what you're doing with some of this, but overall, like it is at least somewhat helpful.
It's helpful just to D&D stuff or TTRPG stuff in
as a general thing. Yeah.
Yeah, none of this particularly, aside from talking about like the beast and the night and time and stuff.
Humanity.
Yeah, none of it really felt very Vampire the Masquerade specific.
Except for suffering, apparently.
Yeah, and hating your character, I guess.
And the pleasures of sex.
Right.
Not affecting you if your humanity is 5 or lower.
Yeah.
7.
Oh, sorry, 7 or lower.
Yep.
So I would say when it's just general TTRPG stuff, like, can you take this and very easily apply it to TTRPGs in general? Fantastic advice.
There's still that metagaming thing that I still have some issues with, but
yeah.
I wouldn't say fantastic. I'd say fine.
But when it comes to specifically the Vampire Masquerade stuff itself, such as humanity, things start getting a bit questionable.
A little murky.
Dude, I legit have said questionable so many times as a joke. It's just become the word.
I've also done that. Don't worry. That's fine. That's all right. I forgive you.
Thank you.
I unironically say onion.
I am desperate for your approval, Alejo, and I am glad I have achieved it.
No, I never gave that.
Oh no.
It's just that's a totally different. No, God. Anyway, so that's it.
That's fair. If you don't want to give me your approval, I wouldn't give it to me either.
Well, there you go.
Approval is his slang for dick.
Wow. Yeah, so that's that'll be it for tonight. Thank you to those who came by, and those who come by in the future. We are going to look at a couple of comments, and then we'll be done.
Yeah.
So let me get those up. So this is an interesting first comment.
Whoa.
In the sense of, this is from Longbone.
Okay.
On last week.
Oh boy.
Like Jay Longbone?
No.
Oh.
Yeah. So.
I'm sorry. I really
understand.
shouldn't have. That loss of interest. I'm sorry.
So, no, I understand. So Longbone was in our Discord for a while, has left it, unfortunately. I don't know why, but I'm going to take this comment as charitably as I can once I read it.
Okay.
It is the word knits, NITS. Now, I will take it as charitably as I can because I have no idea what you're referring to because there are many definitions. But the one that I will choose to believe, unless you correct me, is the Urban Dictionary one of the term of nitpicking. In which case, there being a bunch of nitpicks in this last episode on tone. Now, if that is what you meant, let us know, because I would love to know what we nitpicked. If not, there are other definitions that are less nice.
Okay.
But I will choose to believe this until I am proven otherwise. And if you never comment again, well, I guess we'll just never know. And I don't care. So.
Okay.
That's
like, did we?
No, I don't think so.
Much nitpicking on the tone one?
I don't think so.
Because,
again, I don't know what they meant. So
because I'll be honest, like, what was the video that we talked about with nitpick? I mean, not pick. Tone.
Tone was the first one. Was the Dicebreaker one, which was going over. Well, it was. Oh my god, I'd have to pull up the
and then there was
videos.
The one with Guy.
Yes, the second one was How to Be a Great GM, Guy. And in that one, I felt like we explained our positions very well.
Yeah, and how some things aren't tone in their genres.
And even so, I remember specifically in that discussion also saying, this might be me personally a couple of times. I remember that specifically. So in those cases, yeah. If that's what you meant, again, if that is the definition that you intended, please continue to clarify. But other than that, I'm just gonna move on.
Okay.
So, Lux on the last episode. All right, let's see what I can come up with here. Guy's writing advice is usually pretty good, but from what I remember of the last time I heard him talking about horror in particular, he was pretty far off base. He seemed to think the essence of horror was in the shock value. Yeah, you drink a little bit of your water and it's calm.
Yeah.
I could be misremembering since that was back when I was still going through the old videos on this channel, but it fits with what he was suggesting here. He doesn't seem to understand the concept of dread.
Yes.
So a point you hit on that was a point you hit on was that a campaign or any story doesn't have to maintain a single constant tone throughout the entire run. In fact, I would say that a story expressly should not do that. If one mood never lets up through the whole thing, people will get tired of that and stop caring sooner or later. Variety is the spice of life, as they say. The trick is to know how to use changes in tone to make an impact. A good example here, once again, is Chrono Trigger. Overall, the tone of the game is optimistic, heroic, and colorful, but in certain parts of the game, it gets dark. And those dark scenes really impress upon you the importance of what you're trying to do. If you end up seeing the words, "but the future refused to change," the despair you will feel is pretty legendary. Or, you can look at the opposite approach with Final Fantasy VI. The one with Magitech. I know that one. I would say the overall tone of that game is more on the somber side, as you're always watching the situation of the world get worse and worse as the Empire commits one atrocity after another. This is true. But the characters in your party and a lot of the NPCs have their fun, upbeat moments, which causes you to care about them and want to save the world that they exist in. Anyway, overall, both of the videos were mostly pretty good, and you covered what flaws there were. So I believe this is about all I can come up with this time.
Fair enough.
Thanks, Lex.
Yeah.
I feel I cannot comment as I have played neither of those games.
I will say that the assertions are correct.
Yes.
Then in that case, I agree with Alejo because I respect his opinion sometimes.
Hey, sometimes! Woo! Anyway.
That's better than the rarely you were at. I've promoted you.
See,
but still not as good as the always that I.
Oh no, I'll never get there. I know that for a fact.
Boo. Hey, you're getting ahead of yourself. It's usually.
I know.
Yes,
I'm
yes,
just fucking
yes.
around. I knew it wasn't always.
Don't worry. I always strive to improve my standing with Aiden.
Yes, he is desperate for my approval.
This is true.
Yeah, that's so. You
And
guys'
so
social link will never fucking finish.
Nope.
and so the turns table.
Mm-hmm. I am spinning right round, baby. Right round.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that's all the comments. So I suppose yeah, I mean, there wasn't much to really say otherwise. You know, you were right in that, and the other one I don't know. So I suppose I will again read off our patrons. That is, of course, Draco Kraken, Mog Zero, Slazer, Steely, Drake Cross, Chris, Lux, Frozen Spaghetti, and Kill Chrono. Thank you once again. And that'll be it for us for today. Thank you all for chilling, hanging out. For those of you in the future, you'll be seeing this on Friday. And on Friday, I'll be doing the painting stream on the channel. And if these two chucklefucks want to show up, well, that's up to them.
Probably will. It depends on when you start because I work that day.
Yeah, I'm not sure when I'll start. It's probably be later in the evening. We'll see. But again, not mandatory. Of course, you may stay or not join or join. Up to you.
And I did not know that my attendance on this podcast was mandatory at all.
On the podcast, yes, I find you for every time. Don't worry.
I thought it was just something I was a part of because I liked to be.
No. You've been getting. I don't know if you've seen any of the invoices. You owe me a lot.
Oh no. Whoa.
There was like a month there that you weren't here, and we got to talk about that.
How's my grade, Professor?
Ooh, I don't know if we want to talk about that live on air.
No. I thought I was done being graded. Oh no.
Okay. Well, thank you everybody for hanging out again, and hopefully this Thursday we'll do more Astatine. If I'm not dead, which I fucking hope not. So, we'll see. I get tired. Work. Yeah. Anyway, we'll see you next week, everyone.
Yeah.
Goodbye.
Wait, next week or Thursday?
Well, in the sense of the podcast itself.
Oh,
next week. Yeah. And goodbye.
Bye.
You ruined it.
Now.
Yeah, sorry.
Get out of the chat.
Leave.
Yeah.
I don't know why I'm saying get out of the chat when we have 0 viewers in the chat, and
that's right.
I'm talking expressly to the VOD viewers, but get out of the chat.
Or get into the chat next time. Oh,
yeah.
Or that, yeah. Maybe
subscribe,
give me maybe next time give me the attention and or money I crave.
Oh God. I hate this. All right, I'm making it. Fucking.